Happy little babies grow up at Fun School. The world's best toys, only from Fun School. Learning and creating, action and excitement. Come celebrate with Fun School.
Fun School, true to kids, always.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, welcome to Hamleys, the finest toy.
Happy little babies grow up at Fun School. The world's best toys, only from Fun School. Learning and creating, action and excitement. Come celebrate with Fun School.
Fun School, true to kids, always.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, welcome to Hamleys.
the world's best toys, only from Fun School. Learning and creating, action and excitement. Come celebrate with Fun School.
Fun School. True to kids, always.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, welcome to Hamley's, the finest toy.
Happy little babies, grow up with Fun School. The world's best toys, only from Fun School. Learning and creating, action and excitement. Come celebrate with Fun School.
Fun School. True to kids, always.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, welcome to Hamley's, the finest toy store in the world.
हमारे देश में लोकल खिलौनों की बहुत समृद्ध परंपरा रही है।
To support the toy industry of India, Government of India is organizing the first ever India Toy Fair, जहां आपको fun toys, science toys, modern toys, local toys, educational toys, electronic toys की भरपूर वैरायटी देखने को मिलेगी। एक्सपर्ट से जानिए कैसे खिलौने बन सकते हैं आपके बच्चों की पढ़ाई का एक वाइटल कंपोनेंट। अपने बच्चों को इंट्रोड्यूस कीजिए जॉयफुल लर्निंग के कॉन्सेप्ट से। अटेंड वेबिनार्स, seminars and understand the toy need of each age group. Global investors, exporters, industry leaders, MSMEs, SME, local industries का महाकुंभ। इस वर्चुअल प्लेटफॉर्म पे भारत की 1000 से ज्यादा कंपनीज और कुशल कारीगर दुनिया को दिखाएंगे विरासत में मिले अपने अनूठे हुनर को। 7 लाख करोड़ के ग्लोबल टॉय ट्रेड में आने वाले वर्षों में भारत सरकार की सहायता से भारतीय उद्यमी एवं कुशल कारीगर कर सकते हैं $400 मिलियन के खिलौनों का व्यापार। प्रधानमंत्री जी के आत्मनिर्भर भारत का सपना अब हम सब मिलकर पूरा करेंगे। बनाएंगे अपनी नई पहचान, भरेंगे नई उड़ान, ग्लोबल टॉय ट्रेड में बनाएंगे अपना मुकाम। पेरेंट्स, टीचर्स, एंटरप्रेन्योर्स, इन्वेस्टर्स 27 फरवरी से 2 मार्च तक इस ऐतिहासिक इंडिया टॉय फेयर का हिस्सा बने और www.theindiatoyfair.in पे रजिस्टर करें।
मैं अपने स्टार्टअप मित्रों, हमारे नए उद्यमियों से कहता हूं, आइए मिलकर खिलौने बनाएं। अब सभी के लिए लोकल खिलौनों के लिए वोकल होने का समय है। टीम अप फॉर टॉयज। हमारे देश में लोकल खिलौनों की बहुत समृद्ध परंपरा रही है।
To support the toy industry of India, Government of India is organizing the first ever India Toy Fair, जहां आपको fun toys, science toys, modern toys, local toys, educational toys, electronic toys की भरपूर वैरायटी देखने को मिलेगी। एक्सपर्ट से जानिए कैसे खिलौने बन सकते हैं आपके बच्चों की पढ़ाई का एक वाइटल कंपोनेंट। अपने बच्चों को इंट्रोड्यूस कीजिए जॉयफुल लर्निंग के कॉन्सेप्ट से। अटेंड वेबिनार्स, seminars and understand the toy need of each age group. Global investors, exporters, industry leaders, MSMEs, SME, local industries का महाकुंभ। इस वर्चुअल प्लेटफॉर्म पे भारत की 1000 से ज्यादा कंपनीज और कुशल कारीगर दुनिया को दिखाएंगे विरासत में मिले अपने अनूठे हुनर को। 7 लाख करोड़ के ग्लोबल टॉय ट्रेड में आने वाले वर्षों में भारत सरकार की सहायता से भारतीय उद्यमी एवं कुशल कारीगर कर सकते हैं $400 मिलियन के खिलौनों का व्यापार। प्रधानमंत्री जी के आत्मनिर्भर भारत का सपना अब हम सब मिलकर पूरा करेंगे। बनाएंगे अपनी नई पहचान, भरेंगे नई उड़ान, ग्लोबल टॉय ट्रेड में बनाएंगे अपना मुकाम। पेरेंट्स, टीचर्स, एंटरप्रेन्योर्स, इन्वेस्टर्स 27 फरवरी से 2 मार्च तक इस ऐतिहासिक इंडिया टॉय फेयर का हिस्सा बने और www.theindiatoyfair.in पे रजिस्टर करें।
मैं अपने स्टार्टअप मित्रों, हमारे नए उद्यमियों से कहता हूं, आइए मिलकर खिलौने बनाएं। अब सभी के लिए लोकल खिलौनों के लिए वोकल होने का समय है। टीम अप फॉर टॉयज।
Happy little babies grow up at Fun School. The world's best toys, only from Fun School. Learning and creating, action and excitement. Come celebrate with Fun School.
Fun School, true to kids, always.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, welcome to Hamleys. The
हमारे देश में लोकल खिलौनों की बहुत समृद्ध परंपरा रही है।
To support the toy industry of India, Government of India is organizing the first ever India Toy Fair, जहां आपको fun toys, science toys, modern toys, local toys, educational toys, electronic toys की भरपूर वैरायटी देखने को मिलेगी। एक्सपर्ट से जानिए कैसे खिलौने बन सकते हैं आपके बच्चों की पढ़ाई का एक वाइटल कंपोनेंट। अपने बच्चों को इंट्रोड्यूस कीजिए जॉयफुल लर्निंग के कॉन्सेप्ट से। अटेंड वेबिनार्स, seminars and understand the toy need of each age group. Global investors, exporters, industry leaders, MSMEs, SME, local industries का महाकुंभ। इस वर्चुअल प्लेटफॉर्म पे भारत की 1000 से ज्यादा कंपनीज और कुशल कारीगर दुनिया को दिखाएंगे विरासत में मिले अपने अनूठे हुनर को। 7 लाख करोड़ के ग्लोबल टॉय ट्रेड में आने वाले वर्षों में भारत सरकार की सहायता से भारतीय उद्यमी एवं कुशल कारीगर कर सकते हैं $400 मिलियन के खिलौनों का व्यापार। प्रधानमंत्री जी के आत्मनिर्भर भारत का सपना अब हम सब मिलकर पूरा करेंगे। बनाएंगे अपनी नई पहचान, भरेंगे नई उड़ान। ग्लोबल टॉय ट्रेड में बनाएंगे अपना मुकाम। पेरेंट्स, टीचर्स, एंटरप्रेन्योर्स, इन्वेस्टर्स 27 फरवरी से 2 मार्च तक इस ऐतिहासिक इंडिया टॉय फेयर का हिस्सा बने और www.theindiatoyfair.in पे रजिस्टर करें।
मैं अपने स्टार्टअप मित्रों, हमारे नए उद्यमियों से कहता हूं, आइए मिलकर खिलौने बनाएं। अब सभी के लिए लोकल खिलौनों के लिए वोकल होने का समय है। टीम अप फॉर टॉयज।
So Bhavesh, President has joined. Bhavesh, Vivek and Bhavesh, President has joined. Key
Yes,
President.
I'm here.
Yeah, I'm here.
Hi, I'm here.
So sir, Bhavesh co-chairs our toy committee and he is heading the Hasbro India operations and also Asia operations now. And Vivek is there, Vivek Jhinjani. He chairs our toy committee, sir. So Vivek, President is there. Mr. Uday Shankar is there.
Hello, Vivek. Hello, Bhavesh.
Good.
Hi. But there we met a while ago in Bombay. So
Yes, we did. I remember.
Morning, Vivek. Morning, Bhavesh. Morning, good
morning.
Morning, Dilip. How are you?
President once again.
So Honorable Minister will join in 2 minutes. We
Okay.
just received a message.
No problem.
You want to play the fair video again? It's 20 seconds. Or you want to just wait?
चंदन, हाँ ये
हमारे देश में लोकल खिलौनों की बहुत समृद्ध परंपरा रही है।
To support the toy industry of India, Government of India is organizing the first ever India Toy Fair, जहां आपको fun toys, science toys, modern toys, local toys, educational toys, electronic toys की भरपूर वैरायटी देखने को मिलेगी। एक्सपर्ट से जानिए कैसे खिलौने बन सकते हैं आपके बच्चों की पढ़ाई का एक वाइटल कंपोनेंट। अपने बच्चों को इंट्रोड्यूस कीजिए जॉयफुल लर्निंग के कॉन्सेप्ट से। अटेंड वेबिनार्स, seminars and understand the toy need of each age group. Global investors, exporters, industry leaders, MSMEs, SME, local industries का महाकुंभ। इस वर्चुअल प्लेटफॉर्म पे भारत की 1000 से ज्यादा कंपनीज और कुशल कारीगर दुनिया को दिखाएंगे विरासत में मिले अपने अनूठे हुनर को। 7 लाख करोड़ के ग्लोबल टॉय ट्रेड में आने वाले वर्षों में भारत सरकार की सहायता से भारतीय उद्यमी एवं कुशल कारीगर कर सकते हैं $400 मिलियन के खिलौनों का व्यापार। प्रधानमंत्री जी के आत्मनिर्भर भारत का सपना अब हम सब मिलकर पूरा करेंगे। बनाएंगे अपनी नई पहचान, भरेंगे नई उड़ान, ग्लोबल टॉय ट्रेड में बनाएंगे अपना मुकाम। पेरेंट्स, टीचर्स, एंटरप्रेन्योर्स, इन्वेस्टर्स 27 फरवरी से 2 मार्च तक इस ऐतिहासिक इंडिया टॉय फेयर का हिस्सा बने और www.theindiatoyfair.in पे रजिस्टर करें।
मैं अपने स्टार्टअप मित्रों, हमारे नए उद्यमियों से कहता हूं, आइए मिलकर खिलौने बनाएं। अब सभी के लिए लोकल खिलौनों के लिए वोकल होने का समय है। टीम अप फॉर टॉयज। हमारे देश में लोकल खिलौनों की बहुत समृद्ध परंपरा रही है।
To support the toy industry of India, Government of India is organizing the first ever India Toy Fair, जहां आपको fun toys, science toys, modern toys, local toys, educational toys, electronic toys की भरपूर वैरायटी देखने को मिलेगी। एक्सपर्ट से जानिए कैसे खिलौने बन सकते हैं आपके बच्चों की पढ़ाई का एक वाइटल कंपोनेंट। अपने बच्चों को इंट्रोड्यूस कीजिए जॉयफुल लर्निंग के कॉन्सेप्ट से। अटेंड वेबिनार्स, seminars and understand the toy need of each age group. global investors, exporters, industry leaders, MSMEs, SME, local industries का महाकुंभ। इस वर्चुअल प्लेटफॉर्म पे भारत की 1000 से ज्यादा कंपनीज और कुशल कारीगर दुनिया को दिखाएंगे विरासत में मिले अपने अनूठे हुनर को। 7 लाख करोड़ के ग्लोबल टॉय ट्रेड में आने वाले वर्षों में भारत सरकार की सहायता से भारतीय उद्यमी एवं कुशल कारीगर कर सकते हैं $400 मिलियन के खिलौनों का व्यापार। प्रधानमंत्री जी के आत्मनिर्भर भारत का सपना अब हम सब मिलकर पूरा करेंगे। बनाएंगे अपनी नई पहचान, भरेंगे नई उड़ान। ग्लोबल टॉय ट्रेड में बनाएंगे अपना मुकाम। पेरेंट्स, टीचर्स, एंटरप्रेन्योर्स, इन्वेस्टर्स 27 फरवरी से 2 मार्च तक इस ऐतिहासिक इंडिया टॉय फेयर का हिस्सा बने और www.theindiatoyfair.in पे रजिस्टर करें।
मैं अपने स्टार्टअप मित्रों, हमारे नए उद्यमियों से कहता हूँ, आइए मिलकर खिलौने बनाएं। अब सभी के लिए लोकल खिलौनों के लिए वोकल होने का समय है। टीम अप फॉर टॉयज। हमारे देश में लोकल खिलौनों की बहुत समृद्ध परंपरा होती है।
To support the toy industry of India, Government of India is organizing the first ever India Toy Fair, जहां आपको fun toys, science toys, modern toys, local toys, educational toys, electronic toys की भरपूर वैरायटी देखने को मिलेगी। Experts
Jyoti ma'am, Honorable Minister is there.
Namaskar, madam.
Namaskar, how are you, sir?
I'm well. How are you?
Long time. I'm well. Congratulations. I haven't spoken after you've taken over.
No, we haven't had a chance. I was hoping to come by and see you one of these days.
Anytime.
Please, thank you.
So, good morning, everybody. Welcome to the second edition of FICCI seminar on value of play, toy and games in the new normal scenario. Thank you all for joining in, and particularly Honorable Minister for sparing your valuable time to join us this morning and grace the occasion for this very important event, which we have started, in view of the fact that, childhood is, we all know, is the foundational stage, and toys play a very, very critical role. And it is with this dimension in mind that we institutionalized this Value of Play program. And as I said, this is the second edition of that. So we are really glad that you have agreed to grace the occasion. May I, with these words, hand over to our President, Shri Uday Shankar, for delivering the welcome remarks. Over to you, President.
Thank you, Jyoti. Thank you very much. Honorable Srimati Smriti Zubin Irani ji, Minister for Women and Child Development and Textiles. Sri Vivek Jhangiani, Chair FICCI Toy Sector Committee and Managing Partner United Toys. Sri Bhavesh Somaya, Co-Chair FICCI Toy Sector Committee and GM Hasbro South Asia. Secretary General Dilip, Jyoti, principals and teachers from various schools, industry delegates, friends from media, ladies and gentlemen. It's indeed our privilege to welcome today Srimati Smriti Irani ji, Honorable Minister for Women and Child Development and Textiles, for the second edition of FICCI's Value of Play seminar. We are delighted, Madam, that you've joined us this morning. Over the past 1 year, you have personally been leading efforts to position India as a center of toys. Your extensive work on documenting toys at the regional and district levels is particularly noteworthy and an initiative that should be done across sectors as well. Thank you for championing the local toy industry. You just yesterday launched the website for India Toy Fair to be held later this month. FICCI is committed to ensure its success. This event, in a way, is a run-up to the larger event, ma'am. Realizing the importance of the toy industry, an important role it plays in the development in early childhood, FICCI instituted a committee focusing on toys led by some of the leading players in the country and globally. The objective is to make India a center of the toy industry. Honorable Minister, this Value of Play is an initiative we launched last year and are happy to share that we are holding the second edition on the same day as last year. This showcases the commitment of FICCI as Toy Sector Committee and the industry at large, which has come together to take this initiative forward. Early childhood, defined as the period from birth to 8 years, is a time of remarkable growth with brain development at its peak. During this stage, children are highly influenced by the environment and people that surround them. Toys and play perform important roles in early years of childhood and are an effective way of supporting responsive relationships, strengthening core life skills, and also reducing sources of stress. It is heartening to see that Honorable Prime Minister himself has spoken about the importance of this sector in his Mann Ki Baat, and the strategic role the government has envisioned for this sector in this holistic development of our children that are the future of the country. Madam, the National Education Policy 2020 also lays emphasis on innovation and research in learning, starting from the primary education, where play and toys can perform a major role. Also, NEP 2020 aims to ensure that no child loses any opportunity to learn and excel because of the circumstances of birth or background. Under the policy, every state district will be encouraged to establish Bal Bhavans, a special day in boarding school to participate in activities that are related to this. Like other industries, madam, COVID has been a major setback for this sector as well, and the industry is hoping to see the recovery with the measures taken by the government to revive demand in the economy at large. I would say that this industry has great potential, not just to cater to domestic markets, but also for export as well. I'm sure with specific action for this sector, we can be a major player in the global toy market in the next few years. In the end, I'd like to emphasize that FICCI remains committed to providing quality and safe toys for our children. We are happy to bring in world's best experience in the sector for developing a quality and safe ecosystem for the sector in the country and make it Atmanirbhar. Thank you.
Thank you, President, for your welcome remarks and for emphasizing FICCI's commitment towards this area. With these words, I now move to the chairperson of the FICCI Toy Committee, Mr. Vivek Changyani. Vivek is a graduate in business administration from the US, and he runs a very successful toy manufacturing, distribution, and exporting company. He has over 25 years of experience in the industry and in manufacturing. He chairs, as I said, our toy sector committee, very committed to the cause. He's also the past president of the All India Toy Manufacturers Association, and he's one of the driving force behind the entire work that we do in this space and this program as well. So over to you, Vivek, for your remarks, please.
Thank you, Jyoti. I will acknowledge all of my colleagues. Of course, welcome Srimati Zubin Irani, Honorable Minister for Women and Child Development, Shri Uday Shankar and Bhavesh Sumaya, my colleagues at FICCI, along with Dilip, and friends from the toy industry and all the principals and teachers who logged in today, and also, of course, the friends from the media, and ladies and gentlemen. So we are very deeply honored, Srimati Smriti Irani ji, as the Honorable Minister for Women and Child Development and Textiles. It's really an honor to have you here. You have always looked at the development of the child and what goes into the existence in terms of keeping that child happy, and also looking after with deep interest into the artisans and the kind of products that are being made in India at the local level. It's really an honor to share a podium with you. So thank you again for making it convenient, despite your deep busy schedule, and gracing the second edition of the FICCI seminar on value of play. We really value your support that you have given us. Now, this is a unique initiative, madam, of the Toy Sector Committee of FICCI in partnership with TITMA, where we intend to generate awareness and build the ecosystem around value of play amongst the various stakeholders. The immense support which was garnered on the first edition of Value of Play seminar from schools and industry motivated us to plan for a second edition, and making the Value of Play series a flagship event for FICCI Toy Sector Committee. The size of the Indian market today is estimated, because there are various reports out there, which is close to about 7,000 crores, or give or take about $1 billion US. And we're expecting it to grow at about a CAGR of 10 to 15% a year. Unfortunately, COVID has been a major setback, and we've lost out on that growth and actually gone a bit negative, but that's part and parcel of business today. And we hope to recover pretty quickly. So as we know, a large part of it is catered to by imports. It's been our concerted efforts to push toy manufacturing in the country, along with the support of the government. We are right now closely working with DPIIT and have presented a roadmap for scaling up toy manufacturing to the country, where we are trying to encourage both domestic and global manufacturers to make India a sourcing hub. We in the toy industry are extremely grateful to the government for selecting the toy sector as one of the champion sectors and providing with support at, I would say, at the highest level. From the current size of about USD 150 million of the toy manufacturing industry, we're aiming to increase it by USD 650. This is in regard to the exports from India, with the desired support from the government, and also encourage the MSME sector within our country to be able to scale up and to be exporting Indian-made toys around the world. I mean, our mantra is to put it made in India, available on global shelves. So there have been certain challenges, of course, that we faced, and in terms of, we welcome the government's initiative on quality standards. I think it was much needed and a very good move by the government. We do appreciate the thought and effort that has gone in by the government on this. We would also, of course, like to tweak it a bit so that, in terms of ease of doing business, it's a new quality standard. So, of course, there will be some glitches. And also, if we can have some, because, India having right now had an import dominated by the import of toys. With the new BIS policy, we think that certain, with the certain current travel restrictions, the BIS, people cannot go and audit a factory, which is leading to a limited number of toys that can be sold in the short term. We hope India will cover that. But if in the meantime, at least good quality branded toys that are coming to a certain standard, maybe if we can, find some way in which these plants can be audited and their product can come in. So the FICCI Toy Committee is closely working with the Ministry of Textiles and DPIIT for anchoring a number of sessions and activities in the upcoming India Toy Fair. We have also mobilized a large number of exhibitors as desired. The enthusiasm with which you are leading the entire exercise, ma'am, is really commendable. I have never seen such a scale for a national event for one industry. It's actually just amazing in a very short time what all of you have accomplished. We are all aware that the early childhood is the foundation stage to naturally build up a child's innate abilities and all important lifelong skills of, that they learn through social interaction and, cultural experiences and appreciation, and playfulness. Play is an integral part. And we would like to make sure that play that can develop skill sets within children at a young age will eventually lead to contributing members in their adulthood. I mean, that is the focus of actually learning skill sets through play. And that is the focus of this Toy Sector Committee. We have had workshops and seminars, and we intend to work towards improving, learning outcomes with play for the child. And again, as Mr. Shankar touched upon, I think it's a welcome move that the National Education Policy actually deals with this at the pre-primary stage. Play should be an integral part of a child's life, and in fact should also be an integral part of all of us as adults. I would just like to close off and not, go on. At the end of this, I would just like to talk about what we are doing today. We have a couple of panel discussions that are going to be coming up. One on, how the relevance of toys and games in the new normal within this pandemic, and also the second session, which will deal with toy policies going forward, both from the manufacturer and importer view to the school education and that system. So once again, I thank you for gracing us with your occasion at this, what I believe is a very unique forum and a very important forum overall for children and at the Toy Sector Committee. Thank you.
Thank you, Vivek, for your remarks and for emphasizing how significant play is for everyone's lives and not just children. So with these words, we welcome our Honorable Minister once again. Thank you, ma'am, for joining us this morning for this very important event that we have started. And also with your passion and energy that you have, this sector can actually gain tremendously. So we really look forward to your inaugural address, ma'am. Over to you, Minister.
At the onset, I'd like to congratulate Team Toy at FICCI for consistently contributing to expanding the Indian toy industry. While distinguished guests on the panel today are reflecting on the industry component of toy, slightly touching upon the pedagogical impact, I must here, as a mother of two, highlight certain research materials that have come to the fore in the past 3 decades. UNICEF and other organizations across the world scientifically have researched the impact of toys and learning on a child for 3 decades. It was earlier presumed that between the ages of 0 to 2 years, a child's brain begins to form neural connections at the pace of 1,000 per second. But recent data indicates that the neural connection speed in a child's brain, the impact of toys is such that the speed increased to up to 1 million per second. The fact that these connections are triggered in a protected environment where learning and fun amalgamates to enrich a child's life needs to be discussed often. In a country which has seen a national education policy after 30 years, which predominantly speaks about the joy of learning with toys, one needs to also reflect on the fact that between the ages of 3 and 8, children who learn with toys transform their educational experiences such that outcomes are strengthened and bettered. In fact, in one of the researches by UNICEF, it was found that block-like toys, which have been associated with many learning experiences with children across the country, ensure higher language scores, especially in middle-income families. So while many luminaries today will enunciate the industry impact of toys, I think we also today, under the aegis of the FICCI Team for Toys, need to articulate incessantly on issues concerning the pedagogical impact of toys. Why I say this is because, as has been reflected by Mr. Jingyani, one of our biggest challenges for our industry indigenously is the massive influx of toys from overseas. Given that current industry estimates oscillate between $1 to $1.5 billion, to have most of that revenue being generated by imported toys tells us the expansive opportunity that is before us. One challenge that has been confronted with is the challenge of electronic toys. The fact that between the ages of 7 to 12, 44% of sales are generated should make us introspect that a generation, especially in a pandemic, which has been denied playful opportunities outside, what is the impact of digital play on children who would otherwise have had access to toy and an expansive environment in which they could have enjoyed that experience. I'm hopeful that the FICCI team for toys can help reflect on the digital play impact, especially on the consuming base in our country. Many families have attested to the fact that a toy is functionally used by a child for not more than a year. Many of us with children know that the attention span of our children is such that it would fascinate a child for not more than a month. Which means that where we have families in the middle income group as one of the largest consuming sections, what are the price points that can help attract these consumers to toys made in India? The underlying challenge with regards to this particular affirmation of mine is this: an industry which is functioning in silos, where the largest segment is 4,000 enterprises in the MSME segment. How many of them can afford to keep their price points low and yet sustain themselves as businesses? Given the onslaught from overseas, given the fact that those who can afford, because of their income, better toys, migrate or oscillate towards commercial digital platforms for procurement, how does the MSME segment compete in such an environment? And that is why the Honorable Prime Minister gave a clarion call for the country to unite as appreciation for the Indian toy industry. I'm extremely proud that under the aegis of the Prime Minister, the Government of India conducted the first ever hackathon totally dedicated to the toy industry. An invitation was given to the entire startup community to design schools, to children to come forth with their desires with regards to toys that they can consume, they can play with. Additionally, startups who might have new ideas, new toy functions that they would like to explore commercially. I'm happy to share with Team FICCI today that since that invite, we have received in the Government of India, the Ministry of Education, close to 127,000 entries. A segment which was not much spoken of has received overwhelming response only in a hackathon. Yesterday, along with Minister Education, Minister Commerce, I had the privilege of dedicating the India Toy Fair platform for registration. I'm extremely grateful that already we have over 1,000 companies that have come on board, including some of the biggest national and international brands. But what is the biggest takeaway that we seek from this platform, from the India Virtual Fair dedicated to toys? Ministry of Education, as we speak today, is engaging with every state, every school, board, every educational organization so that we see enhanced participation from the consumer of toys, which is parents and children. For the first time, when in an immersive experience, a parent or a child engages with a company and try to pick a toy of their choice, they will also have access to a map of India, which has mapped with the efforts of Ministry of Education, toy needs and pedagogical impact of that particular toy, which is locally available from preschool onwards to higher education, which is the first being done in our country. The desire is this, that the design intervention that our local MSME industry seeks, the packaging intervention that our local artisans seek, the support that our small-scale industry seeks so that they can transform themselves into a proper corporate structure through webinars, which are also being supported by FICCI. We will provide that platform for conversations and for commercialization of such designs or of such important, I think, entrepreneurial ventures. As a consumer, as a mother, the desire that I have is this. For too long, we've had knowledge systems that have never been transformed, unique to our country, through cultural creatives in the Indian toy industry. I am hoping that that transformational journey will begin with the India Toy Fair 2021 from the 27th of February to the 2nd of March. The fact that FICCI began on this journey, taking the pedagogical needs of over 249 million school-going children of our country and marry it with the needs of the Indian toy industry is to be lauded. My best wishes to Team FICCI. See you at the first ever virtual India Toy Fair 2021 on the 27th of February. Thank you.
Thank you so much, ma'am. The government's commitment to the sector is extremely heartening. And from your address, we can figure out how deep the research of the government is on the sector. And you have complete understanding of all the challenges. Ma'am, we are committed to the cause. We are there part of the Toy Fair as well, and shall work with the government on everything we could do to make the country a toy hub. So thank you, ma'am, once again. And I now hand over to Bhavesh, who co-chairs the FICCI Toy Committee. Bhavesh is currently responsible for driving high-impact business results and overseeing brand building initiatives for Hasbro across the South Asia region, which includes India, MENA, Singapore, Malaysia, and Thailand, and has 20 years of professional experience in this area. So over to you, Bhavesh, for your vote of thanks, please.
Thank you so much, Jyoti, and it's truly an honor to have you here, Honorable Minister. Your words were really encouraging for the industry, schools, and of course, all of those present. Your perspective and endorsement of the joy of learning with toys has been an incredible insight into how toys and play and its pedagogical impact can play a critical role in fact, evolving future generations within the country. I think with 1.5 million schools, 8.5 million teachers, and to quote your figure, 250 million children from various socioeconomic backgrounds in India, we have an onus in FICCI to provide the right learning and play environment and mediums to children from a very young age to ensure that their social and physical development and the development of our society is not compromised. Every child has a right to play, and play, of course, is interactive, engaging, fun, and at the same time educational. When children play with their friends and families, exploring, creating, inventing, they learn how to interact with others. Through play, children develop an understanding of social expectations and rules. And of course, play provides opportunities to share thoughts and ideas, to listen, to communicate, and of course, gain confidence about their own abilities. In the last 1 year, again, as a parent, I think during the global pandemic, play took on a whole new meaning with children and families adjusting to the new norm. It became a medium of learning, a means to spend a lot more time with family and stay active while being indoors. It has actually been very interesting, ma'am, to see new trends by the global toys and games industry that weave together a child's digital as well as physical play worlds for multi-dimensional and multi-layered play experiences. The Toy Sector Committee of FICCI is committed to drive the value of play agenda in India and create and manufacture high-quality products in India to aim to give every child the right to play and experience fun learning, may they belong to whatever socio-economic class. On behalf of the FICCI Toy Sector Committee, I really want to thank you, Madam Minister, for gracing this occasion. A big thank you to all the schools who have joined us, their principals, teachers, students who have attended this seminar. I really appreciate and acknowledge the support of our industry colleagues from Hamleys, Fun School, Hasbro, Mattel, and Lego, along with Taitama, NAITBA, and all other toy industry participants. With all of these schools, toy industry members, international organizations, and associations, we look forward to the National Toy Fair in a couple of weeks, where FICCI has played a really critical role in coordinating enrollments and championing some very interesting sessions. So thank you so much, ma'am, and it's been really, really an honor and a pleasure to hear your words on this.
Thank you, Bhavesh. Thank you, everybody, particularly to Chetan and team for putting this together. They work silently behind the scene. So thank you, everybody. We come to the end of the session and we'll soon start the next panel. Thank you, ma'am, for joining us once again.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, everybody. Thank you. Thanks, Vivek. Thank you, Bhavesh.
Vivek, we log into the next
Thanks,
link
Dilip.
now.
Yeah, I'll just
Vivek
log
and
in.
Bhavesh, we log into the next link now. Yeah, Vivek, we are waiting for Mr. Raman to join from NITI Aayog. In the meantime, I think we can play the short video which you had shared with us.
If you have a longer time, we can play that. That we can play a little later. Maybe you can play the longer video, and we can stop it when he joins.
Okay.
Yeah?
Okay. So, Ankita, can we play the video for the benefit of everyone?
The longer
Yes,
one,
sir.
not the shorter one.
Yeah. Mr. Ramanan is joining from NITI Aayog.
The power of play is not just direct where it's stimulating the mind, but it's also very powerful in a way that it's breaking so many barriers that are created, and kids are allowed to be kids again, just plain simple, enjoy their childhood. At very young ages, they're like clay, you can mold them. We keep cribbing about why the world is such a bad place and it's filled with such bad elements, and why is somebody a criminal and all of that in this world. But if you trace it back, it always goes back to their childhood. With kindness and love and empathy, I think we can really, really change the way this whole world functions.
ज्यामुळं आमची मुलं ज्यांची एनर्जी बाहेर खूप आहे इथल्या मुलांमध्ये आणि ती एनर्जी एका विधायक कार्यासाठी सकारात्मक कार्यासाठी खर्च होणार आहे अशी ही खेळणी आहेत. त्यांचे जी बुद्धीची कौशल्य आहेत ती कौशल्य वाढण्यासाठी आणि डे टू डे लाईफमध्ये जे काही त्यांच्या समोर संकटे येतील, जसं ह्या गेममधून त्यांना त्यामध्ये पर्याय काय आहे असे वेगवेगळे पर्याय त्यांना ह्या गेम्समधून उपलब्ध होतील आणि त्याचा वापर ते ડે ટુ ડે લાઈફ જગण्यासाठी કરું શકतील.
અમુક વખતે શું થાય છે કે શિક્ષણમાં અમુક વિષય માટે બાળકને ડરની ભાવના નિર્માણ થઈ જતી હોય છે, તો એમાં આપણે એ ડર દૂર કરવા અને બાળકોનો આત્મવિશ્વાસ છે બહાર લાવવા, કારણ કે દરેક બાળકમાં કંઈક ને કંઈક ક્ષમતા હોય જ છે, પણ એમનું બહાર કાઢવાનું કામ શિક્ષકનું છે. અને જ્યાં સુધી શિક્ષણનો સવાલ છે તો શિક્ષણમાં જો આપણે રમત દ્વારા બાળકને કોઈ પણ વિષય શીખવીએ તો એમાં શિક્ષકને બી એક મોટો ફાયદો થાય છે અને બાળકને પણ સરળતાથી સહજતાથી શીખવવામાં સારું પડે છે.
There is clear scientific evidence that having adequate play opportunities to play during early childhood has great influence on how you turn out as an adult. If you're well adjusted in your early childhood days, you're actually emotionally well adjusted as an adult, and you grow well and you perform much better later on in life.
Over the last 15 years, starting from a handful of volunteers picking up toys from children who didn't need them and distributing it to children, we've now grown this program into more than 400 play centers, impacting more than 55,000 children on a daily basis. And these play centers are not just, when we think about play, we just think about games and fun. Yes, there's a lot of fun, but these play centers are also areas of development for these children. These are happy places, these are learning spaces, and more importantly, they are safe spaces.
It's about building stronger, well-rounded, kinder, empathetic young people for the world out there. And play does that. So the way we design our play programs at Toy Bank for our kids is entirely attending to the social, emotional, even the cognitive side of things for the kids.
क्या करेंगे? आपके पास जो है इसको यूज कीजिए. बोलिए, चलेगा.
उंदीर आणि माकड विमानाने जाऊ शकते का?
काल जे ट्रेनिंग झाली त्या ट्रेनिंगमध्ये त्यांनी मुलं कशी शिकतात, मुलांना खेळ का आवश्यक आहे हे सर्व पीपीटीद्वारे आम्हाला समजून सांगितलं. टॉय बँकेचे जे ट्रेनर आहेत ते आमच्या स्कूलमध्ये आले. आमच्या स्कूलमध्ये येऊन त्यांनी 4th स्टँडर्डमध्ये काही प्रशिक्षण म्हणजेच त्यांनी काही प्रॅक्टिकल करून दाखवले. काही खेळणी मुलांमध्ये डिस्ट्रीब्यूट करून ती खेळणी कशी खेळली जातात हे त्यांनी मुलांना सांगितले व मुलांना खेळण्याच्या अगोदर खेळणीकडे आपण मुलांना कसं वळवायचं, कसं त्यांचं लक्ष केंद्रित करायचं.
Vivek, I think Mr. Ramanan has joined. Yeah, so I think we can start the session, Vivek.
I think that was a nice note on which to start the session when you see children playing, and especially children who don't have access to toys and games generally. And I think that's what we are trying to bring out today in, the whole play value for our children. So I'd like to introduce the panel. I'm going to be reading it out because each one of you is so illustrious in all that you've accomplished. It would be worthwhile to state it. So welcome, Shri Ramanan. We are very happy to have you here, sir. And thank you for taking time out of your busy schedule. Shri Ramanan is the mission director of the Atal Innovation Mission, NITI Aayog, the National Institute for Transforming India. Government of India, and Mr. R. Ramanan is the Senior Vice President of Tata Consultancy Services. He graduated from IIT Mumbai in electrical engineering, and Mr. Ramanan is also a Harvard Business School Advanced Management Program alumni and is accredited by Cambridge University in sustainability, something very close to all our hearts today, and leadership. He was also elected as the lifetime chair of HBS AMP 187 alumni by HBS. So, I mean, that pedigree, sir, you know, it's just amazing to have you on. The next panelist we have is Mr. Michael Swaisland. I hope I've pronounced it correctly, Michael. He serves as the head of insights for Mattel EMEA, a role he has held since February 2019. He is responsible for a major push to improve Mattel's EMEA's data and analytic capabilities, particularly in the digital space, and to align them with the best practices seen in cutting-edge experiences. He brings more than a decade of experience in fast-moving consumer goods and working with leading brands in the highly competitive worlds before the toy world and beauty and beverage industry. So welcome, Michael. The next panelist I'd like to introduce is Ms. Meenakshi Singhal. Is Meenakshi there? Hi. Ms. Singhal is presently primary school principal at a renowned pathway school in Noida. Mrs. Singhal has 26 years of experience in the field of education, much of it in leadership positions in prominent schools in India and overseas. She has a postgraduate degree in 2 disciplines, English literature and public administration. She has a Bachelor of Education degree from India and also trained in the Principals Training Center in London for International School Leadership. Welcome. The next panelist I'd like to introduce is Dr. Ruchi Seth. Dr. Ruchi Seth is currently the principal at the Lotus Valley International School. She comes with a vast experience of 4 decades in the education sector as teacher and as school administrator. She also sits on the board of prestigious organizations like the Danish Water Forum, Worldwide Forum, India, and in the capacity of chief advisor and member of the executive body, respectively. Dr. Seth is also a recipient of the prestigious CBSE National Best Teacher Award. Congratulations. The next panelist and my colleague at the at FICCI is Mr. Bhavesh Somaya. He is currently responsible for driving high-impact business results and overseeing brand-building initiatives for Hasbro across the South Asia region, which includes India, MENA, Singapore, Malaysia, and Thailand. He has over 20 years of professional experience in marketing and business management, and as I said earlier, my co-chair the Toy Sector Committee. The next panelist I'd like to introduce is Ms. Parul Ori. Ms. Parul Ori is the chief editor of Momspresso and the anchor of Let's Talk with Parul. Starting her career in 1994 as the youngest member of a PR firm, Parul went on to work in different aspects of corporate communication and over the next decade at organizations such as Perfect Relations, Media Workshop, and ASCOM India. She's also a TEDx speaker, continues to speak on and blog on the impact of gender dynamics on children and the all-important role of a mother, and has also acted in several theater productions. And our next panelist is Ms. Lizam Mishra, also my colleague at the FICCI Toy Steering Committee. She leads the government affairs for the Asia Pacific region for the Lego Group, based out of the company's regional headquarters in Singapore. Lizam brings close to 20 years of experience in the government and in corporate affairs functioning, working for Fortune 100 companies in technology, retail, and aerospace. Prior to joining the Lego Group, Lizam was the head of government affairs and public policy for South Asia for Amazon and was part of the core team that helped bring Amazon to the region. So welcome my eminent panelists. Took a bit longer because all of you have vast experience and I think a wide enough experience to make this topic quite interesting. I would like to start off with what I believe, yeah.
Michael is also there, I guess. We missed out on
Yes,
Michael.
I did introduce Michael Swastika.
Okay,
I did already.
sorry. I missed
I've
it
not
then.
left
Thank
him
you,
out.
sorry.
So let me start out by just saying something that reverberated with me that I read in to say that when we make play the foundation of learning, we actually teach the whole child. And this was written by an author called Vince Gauman, and I just thought that's become more and more important especially in today's India. Let me start out by saying to our educators, Ms. Meenakshi, maybe you could help us. I mean, let me touch upon a topic. When we talk about toys and games in the new normal, we should also talk about what children are going through this pandemic. I think that would give us a little bit of a backdrop to what we may want to discuss. One thing I've seen in India is we don't focus on mental health, whether it's in a child or in an adult. How do you think your children in schools have been impacted by this pandemic, and how does play and toys and games help maybe relieve some of the anguish or the pain they may be going through? Maybe you could touch upon. Just feel free to say what you feel. I'd like this discussion to be free flowing. Everyone step in when you'd like. I don't want this to be a pure question answer session because it's an important topic. Yeah. Thank you, Meenakshi.
Yeah. So, well, as you said, when the lockdown happened, I think our first concern as teachers was, how is it going to impact the mental health of these children? Because children need to be with other children. They need to play with other children. And as we've all talked about and seen in the movies that you shared, it is about life. We are preparing children for life through play. And how is it going to happen when they do not have access to other children? Remember, the shops were closed, resources were not available. So whatever children had at home, they had to work with that. So the first thing in such a situation was to get the parents on board and to explain to them how important it is for children to be able to play on their own, even while at home without other children. Because what happens at home is parents tend to control the environment. The adults in the surroundings tend to control the environment. Okay, do this. Now you study, now you play, now you go and talk to your grandmother, now you do this. It was so important to make them understand that children need time on their own. Children need space on their own. They need to be let to be play by themselves. Even if they do not have other children to play, but at least solitary play was very, very important. So we helped them to set up stations at home. We made videos, the teachers made videos at home and sent those videos to parents to say, this is how a station could look like, a learning station, a playing station, so that all that is available at home, the toys and other things like, pebbles, cards, spoons, shakers, whatever is available is made available to the child to explore and to play, to move on and have at least their own play sessions. At the same time, because we had started virtual sessions of learning, and it was important for children to be able to connect to each other, even so what we used to do is during break times, the teachers would switch off their cameras and just let children be on their own during the break on screen. So it was amazing to see how the children connected to each other on the screen. They would share about their toys. They would share about what's happening at their home. So it was like as if, okay, the teacher's not there, and we gave them that opportunity to interact with each other, share their experiences with each other, and talk about, what they were playing with. They brought their teddy bears, they brought their little caterpillars, they brought their, blocks, what they had created, and shared with other children. And somebody said, no, I made this with this. And, so we kept those conversations alive even in the virtual medium. And I think that really helped children to feel more settled than, because we were very, very worried about what is the impact going to be on their mental health, especially the very small children. And by doing this, by getting them connected over the virtual medium, giving them a semblance of normalcy through, meeting their teacher, talking to their teacher, talking to their friends, being able to play, being given space to play.
I think that's how we help them to kind of get through that time.
Thank you. Dr. Shet, would you like to add anything to that in terms of what Meenakshi has just said in terms of mental health and what was used to help them, and any experiences that you've seen about what children have gone through this pandemic, and your experience, just to add to what Ms. Meenakshi has said. You're on mute, ma'am. Ma'am? Hello? Chetan, Shreya, can someone unmute Dr. Seth?
She will have to unmute herself, sir.
Dr. Seth, we can't hear you.
Ma'am, please unmute yourself.
Thank you. The sound is better now.
No, it was
Yes.
off. That's why we haven't heard you
Can you
at
hear
all.
me now?
Yes, we
Yes. Yes. Thank you. But meanwhile, the disturbing sound that I have unmuted. You can hear me now, can you?
Yes, ma'am.
I am unmuted now. Yeah. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. So I completely agree with Meenakshi, yeah, so I completely agree with Meenakshi. All of us have had to step out, bring out our thinking caps on how to keep our children engaged and interested in education. And this was the time when parents actually, they had to partner with us in a much more active way. So parents are very good at being parents, but whether they can understand the value of play in a child's life in terms of making sure that loss of learning doesn't happen, that was something that we had to make more obvious to them. There's a time lag and I can hear myself after 2 seconds, so it's a bit
We're
distracting.
hearing you very clearly,
But while
it's
Meenakshi
fine.
All right. So while Meenakshi has spoken about what's been happening in the classroom, let me talk about what's been happening with children with special needs and the mental health issues that we've been. So I think what we also needed to do, we coordinated with parents to make sure that even children with special needs who need the support of an occupational therapist or a counselor, the parents were taught, they were asked to buy some toys and games that are necessary. If you look at an occupational therapy center in the school, for example, it's all about different kinds of sensory equipment. So we had to, according to the need of each child, we had to request our parents to either buy some of the toys or use the material that is available at home and allow the children to get those sensory inputs from those toys. So we had to do a bit of training with the parents. And of course, everything, the whole school, the whole room became, whether it was the kitchen or the drawing room or the bedroom or the toy room, everything became a learning environment. I mean, we had children who were chefs in the kitchen creating a pizza through which they learned what was the composition of a cell, for example, where's the nucleus and where's the various parts of the cell. So fun and games was the way to ensure that learning took place, and especially socio-emotional learning. So we encourage children and parents to spend a lot more time together. And, even the little rough and tumble play, for example. And if I may add to what the Honorable Minister said about neural connections being formed at an early age, research shows that, MRIs show that the hippocampus, which is a center of memory and learning, and even the prefrontal cortex, which is the place where there is decision making or strategizing, planning, organizing, all these functions happen. that area also develops much better when there's a fun and learning environment provided to the child. So we had to encourage our parents to spend a lot more time with the children, to allow children to spend more time with their peers. There was also this thing about the frustration of not being able to step out of the house, how to deal with it, particularly with adolescents. So allow them to play video games which have some learning inputs, or with robots, for example, through which children can learn coding. So I think there's a gamut of play activities, whether we do it through free play or guided play. I think this is a large continuum from just allowing the child to be on his own, developing his own agency, his confidence, his ability to control his environment, to be able to manipulate the environment for learning, and on the other hand, to guide the child by use of toys and games. Board games, for example, are an excellent way of developing a communication between siblings or with an adult and a child, or by also learning through the board games. And of course, when a child and a parent, or a child and a child sit together and play video games, the excitement is completely different, So learning and fun is happening side by side. And while I'm talking about the therapeutic aspects of game, or the development and learning aspects of game, I must also talk about this wonderful book I read, which I would recommend to every educator. It's like a Bible. It's called Play Therapy, and the other book is Dibs in Search of Self, written by the same play therapist, Virginia Axline. And she uses simple toys. She actually, it's about a story about this young boy who's considered emotionally crippled and was labeled to be autistic. But actually, he had a high IQ of 186, which is a gifted child's IQ. It was only through play, whether it was sand play, water play, iterative play, repetitive play with figures and toys, that she was able to bring this child into a state of self-healing, and how he got in touch with himself and in touch with his peers and became absolutely normal. Whereas earlier, because of his emotional deprivation, because of his inability to connect with people, he was completely isolated, and the parents and teacher had almost given up on him.
So Dr.
That is
said,
the
taking
powerful
off on that
impact.
point, sorry to interrupt, but taking off on that point, you touched upon an important point. I really believe that play is not just important for the child, as this book says, but a lot of us adults in India don't know how to play. We really don't. So I'm just going to move on to touching upon the topic where you talked about video play, and we've talked about different ways as educators try and keep children engaged through play to get over some mental anguish, etc. I'd like to bring Mr. Ramanan in. You've got a vast experience in IT and in the digital world, and of course with your role in terms of the the innovation that we're trying to bring across through Niti Aayog. Mr. Ramanan, where do you see all of this in today's India? Do we have? I mean, it was touched upon by even Srimati, the Honorable Child and Development Minister, Ms. Smriti Irani, where she touched upon digital play. Now, do you think that we can enhance play through digital play? Because a lot of us traditionalists still believe that traditional play is better for the child. Do you think that whether you play traditionally or whether you play through the digital world, do you really believe that it's that detrimental to the child in that digital world? I mean, I'm just trying to understand that these archaic thinking. Of course, as a toy manufacturer, I'd say please don't play with video games. But having said that, is it really that bad? What are your thoughts?
Yeah, thanks, Vivek. And I think we have had a great introduction to the topic, both from Dr. Ruchi and Meenakshi, where they have shared the importance of toy and games. And I'm going to talk a little bit about how the government and Atal Innovation Mission is actually focusing on toys and games as a medium of stimulating creativity, innovation, and capabilities of our young people. But first and foremost, we all know that a child, everything that it learns in the first 2 or 3 years of its life is only because it views the entire world as a game and as a toy. A child which is born is looking at everything as a toy, and it is looking at that toy and wants to understand it, play with it, and whatever learning and whatever knowledge it gains is because of this approach, that all of this is in an atmosphere of fun. There is no pressure to learn anything. There is exploration, there is discovery, leading to creativity in the way it manages the environment and the world around it. And then that leads on to more and more learning and absorption. And so, even in the simple act of a child wanting to walk, it looks at the world around it. From my point of view, the child is viewing, everybody is walking. Isn't it fun to walk? And it starts trying to stand up, falls down again, stands up, falls down again. But every time the child innovates, learns, and starts walking, running, and so on. And so also it is with speaking. So I think nurturing this element of exploration, curiosity, discovery is so very important, and that is stimulated by viewing everything from a fun point of view, from a game point of view, and really from a toy point of view. It doesn't mean it has to be a physical toy. The world is a toy for us to play around with. And I think that stimulates the creativity, and that's why the child learns so much in the first few years. And then as we start limiting the child in saying that this is the way you have to acquire knowledge, and this is the way you have to learn about a particular subject, and this is the way, structured way, if you don't get marks in maths and physics and chemistry, you're not learning anything. This starts inhibiting all of us, and we stifle the creativity in us, and thereby we lose the innovative capability. And therefore, the point that Dr. Ruchi said, take autistic children. I know through experience, my cousin sister is having an autistic child. And the only way that child is able to express that it is as normal as anybody else is through the games and toys that it plays and learns. And then you're amazed that the child is doing things that normally we wouldn't have thought of doing with the same game or with the same toy. Now, what are we doing? The Honorable Prime Minister, I think, has played tremendous importance on learning through toys and games. He gave a recent speech on that. And the NEP, the new education policy, also focuses on toys and games, not just at the beginning foundational levels. I think this whole approach towards toys and games has to be encompassed throughout our life, and that's why the tinkering labs have been launched across the country. Now, some of you may be already familiar what the Adult Tinkering Labs are about. They are dedicated creative and innovation workspaces in schools for students between grade 6 to grade 12. What do we want to do? We are introducing to them do-it-yourself kits in the latest of technologies, 3D printers, robotics, IoT, miniaturized electronics, augmented virtual reality. They're like Lego kits. Give a Lego kit to a young, small little boy and he starts assembling, disassembling, and so on and so forth. We want our young kids between grade 6 to grade 12, because they are at their most creative phases of their life, to start tinkering with them. So that's why the word tinkering lab. You want to tinker, you want to play in an atmosphere of fun and learning. And these are a combination of digital and physical toys. You need mechanical spanners. You have things like, creating solutions using Arduino boards or robotics and so on. And these are, we have great partners like Lego and all the others who have also partnered in adopting tinkering labs and in stimulating this. But what it is creating is a tremendous boost in terms of problem solving, innovative thinking, and creativity stimulation in the young students. There in this tinkering lab, that space which is there in a school, and we have today more than 7,000 tinkering labs and 3.5 million students using it. They're not pressurized. You're not to get any marks. You're not to get any accolades for so many credits and so on. All you're getting is recognition for the joy of creating something, and the joy of innovation, and the joy of discovery. And I think the Adult Tinkering Labs are the first step as the NEP rolls out its program of ensuring that toys, games, simulation, whether it is digital play or whether it is physical play. In fact, these Tinkering Labs is a combination of digital play as well as dexterity with your hands and with your physical dexterity which is required. And we are also including that in sports and sport games and so on, so that, how do you learn sports better through a game? How do you learn to play cricket better through augmented reality, virtual reality? How do you learn to play tennis better? And so all of these simulations and the game-based approach is one of the most creative ways of engaging the child and being able to flower and blossom their creativity and innovation.
Yeah, that's interesting to note, because we've always put down digital play. I think overall anything that's too much of something is always hurts. But what's coming across is that in this new pandemic, that toys, games, whichever way of play does help a child, and especially also those with special needs. Michael, I'll come to you. Just to touch upon, looking at this from a toy company such as Mattel's viewpoint, how have things changed for you as a company in the way we view, the kind of products and the way you sell those products? I know it's too soon. It's only been about a year now into the pandemic. But since you do a lot of the analytics and you understand, the changing trends and the changing life patterns in terms of children, is there something that you at Mattel have seen where either toys fulfill a need when I talk about mental health or just about occupation, or will this also change the kind of need for certain toys, or how do you look at this both during the pandemic and going forward?
Yeah, sure. Thank you very much. And firstly, I'd like to thank the government and all of you guys for the involvement in this. I think it's a really important topic for us to all be speaking about. I think where we approach it from is balance. I think the past year has been, so monumentally different for kids and parents that we've had to process a lot of new ways of doing things. And I think for kids, as many of the other speakers have already said, it's really important that we inspire, entertain, and develop them through play from an early age, because those first 7 years of life are so crucial to their overall development and reaching that full potential. So this year, when I hear the conversation between digital and physical, I don't think it's one or the other. I think we know that digital is becoming such a fundamental part of all of our lives. And it's not a choice. I think we need to develop kids in both spaces going forward. So it's about how do we ensure that there's a balance between what they do in the physical world versus what they're doing in the digital world, and that they're both seen as beneficial because they both have their benefits to the child's development. From our side, it's how do we integrate that? Because when play patterns are in place, it's often either in the digital world or the physical world. And there's a lot more integration that's starting to take place between how you can pull kids between the two different worlds and therefore almost force the physical interaction, because just doing digital interaction therefore keeps them very much still and passive, whereas that energy and academic elements that come through from the physicality I think are actually quite crucial. So how do we give access to that, and what do we think this future is? From our perspective, there's a number of areas. When they're playing, they're developing skills in areas of like cognitive, physical, communication, their social and emotional well-being. But how do we get these skills prepared is crucial, and what are the type of areas that are impacting that? So us as Mattel, we are very obviously interested in childhood development, and over the last 2 years, we've been working with the University of Cardiff in the UK to understand neurologically what happens in children during during different play patterns. And we found that during doll play in particular, there was the parts of the brain that are associated with social information processing skills and empathy are being activated during these play patterns, which is crucial as we see the world that we've lived in the last year, how important those skills are in developing well-rounded individuals. So how can we then say, well, what does this mean from a broader play pattern perspective? What are the other options that we can be looking into to get our kids ready for that point in the future? Because it's crucial that we do things that are around literacy and emotional development. So, what are we doing from a STEM perspective, where in India, we've had obviously in the past our Hot Wheels labs, which is teaching physics concepts of speed, energy, force, and gravity. But also other areas where we're working on the more emotional side through imagination. And I think that sometimes we put too much emphasis on, is digital the right thing? Is physical the right thing? Is STEM the right thing? Is emotional the right thing? But in the end, kids need to be developed in all these areas to become the well-rounded people that we want them to be as future leaders. So, I mean, I could go on in a lot of these areas for quite a while, but in essence, I think the greatness of a session like this is getting towards a common understanding of what this is from the very different perspectives, because I think parents see kids through one lens, and I think through the last year, I've probably seen them in a totally different world, having to try and do their work while educate their children. Teachers see a completely different lens that parents maybe have not been exposed to. And us in the more analytics and insights world, I think the most important thing for all of us to do is just observe, because you can learn so much just by watching, because a kid can't necessarily always tell you what they think and feel. But if you watch and listen, you're likely to pick up things more as we go along the journey. So from my side, it's very great to be a part of this, just to listen to everything that the rest of you have to say as well. So thank you for encouraging this engagement.
Thanks, Michael. I know this is a topic close to my heart, and we can go on and on. You know, I'll just come to Ms. Ori. Sorry, I'm going to come to you with a very different angle, since we have you know, eminent toy companies like Hasbro, and we have someone who talks about innovation, and we have Mattel, and we have educators here. You know, for a long time in India, when we as manufacturers went to schools, we were treated like pariah. You know, this is a commercial person coming and trying to sell toys and games. And I hope both the educators here don't take this in the wrong way, but we were always shunned from the school system, right? And we as manufacturers and dealing in toys have always, been frustrated with the fact that toys have not been part of our children's growing up years, in terms of it being, it's always been like a reward on a birthday, on a special occasion. You've done well in exams. It's never been brought into as part of a child's lifestyle. I think that this whole initiative by the government, therefore, is amazing. I mean, just to have that mindset change, that toys can add to children's lifestyle and, lead them to be with more skill sets. But where I'm coming from is, do you think partly the kind of environment we're in is where this change is coming in? I mean, where do you see all of this? Because to be honest, after 25 years in this business, I wish that had happened 25 years ago. So where do you see all of this as a mother, as someone who deals with, I love the term momspresso, but, caffeine kick for a mom. But anyway, we can, love to hear from you on this.
Sure. Well, as the largest online content platform for moms in India, we see how things change in the parenting world. And I think one very prominent trend has been how parents very clearly understand the importance of play in a child's overall development, the benefits, the cognitive growth, and we've gone through all of that. I clearly remember my own experiences of, those high contrast color, soft blocks, mobiles that we had for visual stimulation when the children were babies. There were plush toys with different textures for tactile sensory stimulation. The list goes on. But the point I'm trying to make is that parents today, your audience, the buyers, are very well informed. We're tech savvy and we're demanding, and especially in the early childhood category. But I think what's interesting is what COVID has done is actually, it's rekindled an interest in toys and games, even for age groups beyond the early years. So early years gets a lot of attention where toys and games are concerned. And you're right. I mean, as far as toys have always been considered an indulgence. Well, traditionally, when you save up pocket money, you'll get it. Or marks achhe aa gaye. If you manage to get a certain rank in class, then you'll be rewarded with a toy. But I think things have changed very drastically in the past, say 2 decades, and especially now because of the pandemic. I mean, I think with schools shut, a large number of parents working from home, we are very clearly in a phase where toys and games are no longer an indulgence, but we can actually call them essential. So now when you go and visit those schools, you probably are going to have a very different experience. But coming back to the point about, everybody sitting at home, the pandemic has created an environment of anxiety, insecurity. None of us, I mean, adults, children alike, none of us are feeling in control of our lives. So when there is an environment of games and toys, when a child enters that gaming environment, and whether that's online or offline, physically sitting, playing Ludo with the family, there is some semblance of control. I think the child is able to feel that, okay, this is normal, this is fun, and this is something where I can make sense of things, at least temporarily. More importantly, when the family plays together, it also gives children that much needed sense of security. Again, when the children are young, we're all sitting with them, the blocks are there in front of us, and we're kind of guiding the children, and we're having fun with them, whether it's a puzzle or whether it's those shape toys, etc. I don't know at what stage, I can't pinpoint the stage where I actively stopped playing with my children, sitting down to play. And I'm sure it's the same with everybody. It's a unconscious, subconscious thing, but the pandemic has helped to bring that back. Carrom boards came out, decks of cards came out, Monopolies, your Scrabbles, your Ludos, everything came out. Ludo also online. My God, what a rage that was. My kids were constantly on, playing Ludo with a friend sitting in, well, geographically different parts of the world. But the point was that, there was that environment which had been created, the family sitting together, just that rediscovery, even across our platforms. Moms are talking about rediscovering the joy of playing the simplest games with their children. So I think a lot of that is going to happen when we're talking about, well, digital versus physical. I totally, completely agree with Michael that we cannot look at those in isolation. And we've discussed this. I mean, parents have come to us with so many queries about how do I restrict screen time for my child? And I think the simple answer after talking to zillions of experts is that you can't. That's their world. We cannot take them away from what is going to be their future. How can we do that? Yes, digital environments require much more moderation, much more supervision, lots of parental controls as the child grows, age appropriately, of course. But let's remember that we can't take them away from it. That is their life going ahead. And it's something that, we as they're natives to that environment, as I said, and we're the ones who are the immigrants. So we need to really teach ourselves how to cope with that environment rather than the other way around, rather than pulling them out. Pulling them out, again, will lead to a lot of anxiety, mental stress and all, because it's not natural to do that. So in fact, I was very interested when Mr. Ramanan was talking about the tinkering labs, because that's going to give a little bit of both, right? That will give us a little, exposure to digital as well as a physical play with things. And as long as we don't stress on the learning part of it, I mean, who wants to read a book if you have to write a book report after that? So similarly, if you bring them into projects, bring children into projects where they're handling toys or whatever you call it a toy, physically while learning, that's probably the best approach that there is. So it's very encouraging to hear that. And I wasn't aware of all of this. So I'm really happy to be a part of this panel and, get to know so much that is happening around us.
Thank you. Mr. Ramanan, I've been informed you may have to leave. Is it possible for me to ask you, I will come to Bhavesh, sorry, but can I ask you one last question if you do have to leave, sir?
Sure.
This is moving away from the topic, and since I have you here, and Bhavesh, sorry, but I will come to you on the same topic. But since we have you here and you have to leave, one of the challenges we face in this country, and people say, why can't Indian toys compete globally, is innovation. Any few words for the Indian toy industry in terms of manufacturers and in terms of how do we change our thinking? I know this is moving away from children, but also with innovation, we can give the Indian child what they need. And why is it that we are not as innovative in India, especially in this sector? Is there any pointers that you could give us or to shed some light?
Yeah, I think great question, Vivek, and something that I saw in IIT Gandhinagar. They have been actually creating toys It's a very innovative way. They're actually creating out of wooden structures a whole lot of science, technology related toys, so that children can start playing and learn all aspects of physics, chemistry, and so on. Just playing with them, assembling them. It is not, you don't learn any theory, but you just look at, what goes into formation of a triangle, for example, or what goes into the formation of a trapeze, and so on. And it's so very engrossing that you start playing around and you start creating different structures, and you automatically understand the principles of physics, chemistry, and so on and so forth. I do think there is now the question is, why are we not not many local companies are looking at this as a big industry? I think there are 2 or 3 elements of it. Number one, it's a cultural problem in India. Our parents have always been encouraging our children more to get marks, and this rote learning mindset, which is so very prevalent, that probably the toy manufacturers have not seen the importance being given to toys and games at a school level, at a foundational level, or even at a senior level. Unlike in Finland or Scandinavia, where it's compulsory for at the foundational level for children to spend 6 to 8 hours, if the weather is good, outside playing with games and learning through toys and games. And if the weather is not so good, even in winter, they spend about 90 minutes just playing with toys and games to be able to stimulate their creativity and innovation. So there is I hope with this new education policy, which is giving special importance to the fact that toys and games are going to stimulate creativity and innovation and other capabilities in the child, and lead to a holistic growth of the child. Hopefully more and more toy manufacturers from India will start working on this. The second aspect is, I think there is a great opportunity for partnerships to be developed. We don't need to reinvent the wheel. We can form partnership with established organizations from outside, but customize it to the needs of India, because many of the toys that that are being manufactured abroad and then we try to get it here, it may not be very much applicable. And the third is, India has been a rich repository of toys and games, our ancient games and ancient traditional games, which are very, very prevalent and which are known in our villages and which is practiced in our villages. I mean, take that game called Pallanguli in Tamil Nadu, which is known by various other terms across the country. Now that's played it requires physical dexterity, it requires acuteness of thinking. It's a fun game to play, it's a group game to play. So you are introducing so many elements which we are talking of 21st century skills today, that you need collaborative thinking and dexterity, physical dexterity, mental dexterity, and so on. So I do think that with the greater emphasis of our schools on using toys and games as a mechanism of stimulating exploration, discovery, creativity, and innovation, that we are going to have more and more toy manufacturers. Also, I do believe that the educational regulatory incentives for toy manufacturers and game manufacturers at a school level will go a long way, and we at NITI Aayog are also looking at some of those aspects.
Thank you for your input, sir, and thank you for being on the panel. I know you have to rush, but thank you for being here. Bhavesh, just
and I'd like to be connected to everybody and see how we can take these forward through the NITI Aayog and through other initiatives that we have. So
would love to interact with you, sir. Would love to.
Thank you.
Thank you. So Bhavesh, going on to what Michael said, and I'm just going to go back to our first names if everyone's comfortable with that, as Farooq said. But at the end of the day, you are the general manager. I mean, you know India well. You're looking at the Middle East, African, and Malaysia, Singapore, etc. Is there a change you're seeing in your product lines in terms of what has done well, not done well? I mean, we've touched on toys and games doing well. Do you see things that you would think that normally during a pandemic would not do well, in terms of play? Not from any other point of view, it's just for us to understand this. I know we've all talked about board games bringing us families together. I mean, it's true for all of us in all our homes. Families that play together, stay together. But at the end of the day, What's your viewpoint on all of this? Because it is a changing world for all of us. And as a large toy company, very dedicated to doing good business in India, where do you see all of this?
So first of all, I think again, Vivek, thank you so much for asking the question, and most importantly, I want to thank all the panelists for their brilliant views. This has been a learning experience for me because of the kind of perspectives that I've been hearing on the toy industry, both in the inaugural session as well as this one. I want to share a bit of a different perspective, Vivek, on, but keeping in mind the journey that we've seen specifically in India during this time, but also most importantly on the importance of toys and games and the value of play in the child's life. And Vivek, you know this more than anybody else, as you and I have been experiencing with the other industry members quite closely. Parul mentioned this really important point where toys and games had been almost considered to be an indulgence, right? In the country. Now, if you were referring to the current times and to the theme of this discussion as the new normal, and then maybe I can take the liberty of referring to the time before that as the old normal. I think in the old normal, from a very personal experience standpoint as a parent, I think buying toys and games was largely an occasion-driven sort of consumption or habit.
Right.
We used to move from big occasions to occasions, right? There was either Diwali or a scholastic achievement in the child's life or a birthday celebration. Ultimately, these were the moments when toys would become a part of, our lives and the child's life. And while toys would be bought in these times, there were a lot of other elements that added meaning to these occasions. And toys would probably be somewhere on the, if I can use the word, somewhere on the fringe. I think what we have seen here now, and I think Michael also raised this brilliant point about balance. As I think parents and children are being exposed to, or overexposed, I would say, to screens, the role of toys and games has been almost elevated to being a daily companion, right? We don't need special occasions anymore, Vivek. With the whole family spending long days in front of screens, toys and games actually gave us a legitimate and a fun way to stay away from screens, something that they enjoy and they're not forced to do, and in that process create occasions and memories. So I think it's clear that the importance of value of play is not necessarily an industry catchphrase anymore. It's evolving, and it's actually moving to a place where it's really gaining a lot of meaning in our lives. Now, keeping that perspective in mind, I'm just saying, Vivek, as organizations and in fact even as an industry in India, the critical role that we all need to play together is to keep a close eye on how we are seeing children and their evolving needs in these times, and start to innovate and start to flex our capabilities to suit those needs, right? Keep creating toys, keep creating ways, keep creating play patterns that can manifest in toys to be able to adapt to those needs. I mean, for example, if I kind of, just refer to your point, Vivek, where you said games and the importance of games. Now, the Hasbro Global Consumer Insights team found that these difficult times have led to an increase in face-to-face family game sessions. Of course, that's obvious. It's interesting to step back and understand how this has happened. Now, in the old normal, the social manifestation of playing together was increasingly based on digital platform, right, with online games. And while it's not going away and anytime soon, I think with almost a no limit on screen time, which we've been experiencing now, we are potentially looking at a downward slope from that peak of digital exposure. It's almost as if we are ourselves adjusting and realizing that, this is too much. We need to maybe pare back and get that balance. And if I keep that in mind, I think the real insight here is of different experiences and the experience and the value of reconnecting with families. Screens, as Parul mentioned, will always have a place in our lives. I mean, why talk about kids? I think if I look inward and think about ourselves, a simple question is, what has been the impact of this technology and screens in our own lives over the past 1 decade, right? We are practically glued to our phones or whatever else. And there's not a lot that we can do to be able to shift away from this behavior. But I think as we are evolving, as we are moving forward, Vivek, there clearly is also a paring back. There clearly is that balance that is being brought back. And keeping that in mind, I think we need to push the boundaries again on innovation and see how we can evolve and keep changing these new emerging play patterns, which are, by the way, physical and digital, both manifesting and joining each other to be able to innovate and keep toys relevant for kids and families all across the world, if that makes sense.
Absolutely, Bhavesh. I think, one thing we've learned today, it's play about children, play about adults. I mean, we always talk about children, but young adults, even us, it really play is important. What I'm going to do is, because we're going to have to cut short, not cut short, but end at a certain time. I didn't realize, almost an hour is gone, and it's been really fascinating. I hope maybe we can get together on a different forum and continue this discussion. I'm just going to ask all of you, and I'm asking you to keep it brief, like a 1-minute line on what play means to you individually. So just to end the session on what's play for you. It doesn't have to be from a commercial sense, from an educator sense. It can be just personal remark on what play means to you. So, Nisette,
Vivek, only one thing is, I think we have one more speaker. It's a pre-recorded. Lism is there.
Okay.
So
but
we need
you know
to
what?
run that.
I didn't realize it was pre-recorded. Okay. Can we just quickly end with this, and then we can run the pre-recorded session?
Yeah.
So, Dr. Shet, maybe just keep it brief. What does play mean to you? And then, anyone else can pop in after that.
Okay, thank you so much. I think to me, play means it's a cathartic experience. It's my inner self, uninhibited, being able to express myself. That's what play would mean to me.
Lovely. Parul?
Play is definitely relaxation. I think that's probably just the word, because you don't want to stress about it, and that's the one zone where you can actually let yourself go. Your children can also just completely be themselves with no pressures. But if I can just take another minute, I do have a sort of a wish list for all of you, for toy manufacturers. And if I can just take a minute, I'm going to go through it really quickly.
Yes, please.
All right. So, we've talked about innovation, and we've talked about keeping the range of toys broad and all-encompassing. I'm not going to go into that, but I definitely like to talk about safety. I mean, as a parent, I demand safety. I think that's completely non-negotiable. So it's very, very heartening to know that we've got some certifications which are in place, and I would just request everyone to just strictly enforce and responsibly implement them. Don't forget the outdoors. That's my other really important point. I know that we've all been forced indoors because of the pandemic, but outdoor time for fresh air, exercise, it's been a savior for all of us. So give us options that can be used in limited outdoor spaces. And that's what innovation is all about. Give us play equipment that can replace public parks for at least some time. But most importantly, and this is a mentality that we all need to change, stereotypes. If I ask for a game, I walk into a shop and I say I need something for an 8-year-old, I'm asked boy or girl. And as much progress as we've made, I will be shown kitchen sets or beating crafts for girls and toy
Parul, I
cars or
think
robo
that
sets for
can lend
boys.
itself to months of discussion on gender-based
Absolutely.
So
No, that's
I
it.
would
That's
just
all
stay
I
away
want to
from that.
say.
And unfortunately, we are short of time. But you
Absolutely.
touched upon topics and
I
love
think
to
I made my
interact going
point.
forward. We'd love to go forward. I think all of us companies are very challenged in making non-gender. Meenakshi, Michael, just quickly so we can play this. We have our colleague Lism, who's pre-recorded out of Singapore. So just a quick liner from both of you and Bhavesh.
Yeah, so I think for me, play is you could call it escape, you could call it fun, you could call it laughter, because that is what those are the images that it evokes in my mind. It's about bonding, it's about positive relationships, it's about letting yourself go and get into a different world altogether. So that is what play is all about, and I think that everybody deserves that, whether it is a child, whether it is an adult. We all live in a world full of stresses, where we are pulled apart in very different directions for everything. And just to sit down, to be able to sit down and to be able to, enjoy that moment, I think that is what play is all about. And I really, agree completely with Parul and the other speakers that, of course, there has to be no stereotypes. I mean, and there is no age bar. Play has to be outdoors as well, completely outdoors. And I think what is the need of the hour is the do-it-yourself kits. which children are able to engage in by themselves, because there is a lot of learning there while you're catering to your innovativeness inside, that latent innovativeness, that latent creativity, and that comes through the do-it-yourself kits, kits that are that give you infinite possibilities of doing what you want with those few materials. I think
right. Absolutely, Meenakshi. Sorry, I will have to. I'm just trying to get everyone in, but what you're saying is absolutely right. I think we will have a part 2 to this discussion. Michael, if you could just touch upon it, and Bhavesh, maybe we can get into our next session after Liz.
I'll be brief. I mean, I think this session we could all talk for hours, guys. So I would be thoroughly enjoying to be part of another one. But I think from my perspective and from what we see in Mattel, play is about just imagination and just looking at what are the possibilities. I mean, kids or adults, there's so much about when you jump into that world of play where you can imagine a world that is better than the one you're in and the future that you want to have. And I think it's something that we should be encouraging in every child.
Lovely. Bhavesh, quick line.
I think for me, simply, Vivek, play is reinvention and just being reborn. I think that's just for me summarizes it.
Thank you, everyone. I'd like to end this session, but I'll just say one line, and then we're going to hear from my colleague Lizim from the Lego Group on a pre-recorded session, which he'd like to share with you. All I can end this with saying is that I hope play brings a smile on everyone's faces. I mean, that's just the most important thing. Be happy, be playful. Let's live our life in that manner.
I'll request
Chetan,
everyone, Vivek, to be on the panel until we play this. So
yeah, sure.
Can we have the video, please?
Good afternoon, everybody. Thank you very much for inviting the Lego Group to speak on this very important topic of the relevance of toys and games in the new normal. I also want to extend a thank you and a gracious hello and warm welcome to Dr. Ramanan, who the Lego Group has partnered with for quite a while. Then, of course, Mr. Vivek Changiani, all the principals and educators in the audience today, and our industry colleagues. Thank you for having us. This is a very, very important topic, especially as children today are dealing with accessing a lot of materials, both offline and online in this COVID context, in the context of the pandemic. It's extremely important to understand how children can remain motivated, they can continue their creative journey, they continue their learning journey, and continue to remain inspired in the context of being shut out from their regular, normal educational and school formats. So thank you, and let us get into the next slide. So we'll just address a little bit about the Lego Group first, setting the context, talking about why play as a concept is very important, especially in this time. Then we will go into the journey of innovation of toy products for children that the Lego Group has seen, as well as why innovation is extremely important for children. And then, of course, our approach to responsible digital engagement with children. So for those of you who are not familiar with the Lego Group, we are headquartered in Denmark. We are still privately owned by the Christiansen family. We are about 89 years old. We were founded in 1932. Today, we are the leading play and toy manufacturer in the world. We're present in more than 140 countries, both with subsidiaries as well as through our distribution and retail partners. We have a large group of over 17,000 colleagues that we all work together to further the Lego brand as well as our play proposition. And as of last year, we were the #1 most reputable and valued brand. This was through a survey, third-party survey by RepTrack. And we're extremely proud of this, and we continue to wish to be on this journey to provide value to our consumers, both young as well as adult. So as I said, you may have seen through our products and through our system of play, that everything is to inspire and develop builders of tomorrow, to help them create and collaborate together, and to enjoy the system of play. And this is something that we will see as I walk you through the journey of all our products and how we have innovated through the years to inspire and develop the builders of tomorrow. So this is an extremely important report that the World Economic Forum took out, the Future of Jobs report last year. And this states really that by 2025, the time spent on tasks by humans will be equal to the time spent by machines. And this is extremely interesting. And 2025 is just 4 years from now. This means that a lot of the jobs that exist today will actually be automated. So what will make human beings actually differentiate themselves and stand out in terms of skills? It will be our emotional skills, our physical, social, creative, and cognitive skills. These are the skills that will actually help the next generation of workers, the next generation of people coming into the workforce to succeed and differentiate themselves. And this is critical. And how do we develop these skills in children at an early stage? We develop it through the process of play, through the process of meaningful play, which is iterative. That means that they can make and create and recreate and change. It's socially interactive, so you can collaborate together. It brings a lot of joy, and it's also engaging. So children are learning new experiences, new reactions as they play and bring systems of play together. So this is extremely important that overall, based on this industry report, we make a commitment to help children engage in these types of play so that they can build their 21st century skills and be ready to take on and be a part of the next generation of the workforce. Of course, as I already established
on the other
at the beginning
side
of the presentation,
Vivek.
During
yes, Bhavesh. Sorry.
The other. So maybe can we get on to a few more slides quickly? How much is left, Ankita, out of this?
Maybe we can play this after our next session. It's more about generic play, if that's okay. And we can just end our session now.
Can we then do it quickly in the next session? Take it to the next session, Vivek. Is that fine?
Yeah, please.
After Mr. Agarwal.
So thank you everyone on this panel. Thank you for being here. It's been a real pleasure. And I think we will have a part 2, and we will come back to all of you to continue this interesting discussion that we've had. Thank you so much. You've really added a lot of value to this whole discussion, and thank you for being here.
Thank you.
Vivek,
thank you.
Request you to join the next session quickly. Bhavesh, Vivek.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much.
We hope you keep growing because you are now our godfather in the toy industry. Sir.
No, please, don't get into this.
Okay, so Bhavesh is there, sir. Bhavesh is there from Hasbro, and Jaswant is there from Fun School as a panelist. And of course, this limited limited in the sense that this is a panelist link, but it is being watched in YouTube and our bike platform by more than hundreds. So
we are live.
We'll also be joined by. We are live now, sir. We will be also joined by Ms. Alka Arora, Joint Secretary MSME, very soon. So over to you, Bhavesh and Vivek. So we can start the session.
So Bhavesh, just want to make one. Manish Kukreja of Taitama is not well, so he cannot attend the panel discussion today.
Oh, that's really unfortunate.
Yeah.
I was looking for views. Really unfortunate.
So over to you, Bhavesh.
Thank you so much, and Agrawalji, thank you so much for making it to the session. Thank you all for being here today. In fact, this is a very important point in time as we have had the onus to drive the importance and value of play. And I think through the sessions in the morning, the inaugural session where we heard the Honorable Minister and the session before this, where we also heard the perspective on what will be the role and the value of play in the new normal. I think this is a great time to understand what role the industry can take in developing and creating high quality toys and games for children and families in the country. I just want to first start with a bit of perspective, and then I would love to have views from my esteemed panel members on understanding their perspectives. So, one, the toy industry in India, I think, is at a very important cusp. It's an important bridge in India's development process because the industry combines advanced manufacturing and development techniques while continuing to be a big employment generator in the toy assembly and packaging operations. The industry has been the focus of attention in India by the government over the last couple of years, and having experienced a host of policy changes aimed at driving self-reliance in the manufacturing of quality toys. It's important that being a part of the industry, we've all been experiencing and managing this change in the best way we can, with the confidence that the future will see the toy industry as a sunrise industry and a major driver of growth for the economy. We all have to adapt and grow to be able to achieve this ambition as we move forward. And I think, I strongly believe that the right policies need to be engineered to deliver ease of doing business for the toy industry moving forward. In this panel that we have today, I'll focus on discussing views on policies that are required to support this accelerated growth that we all are aspiring to achieve within the toy industry in India. Let's just begin with Sri Anil Agarwal, who's currently serving as the Additional Secretary to the Government of India at DPIIT under Ministry of Commerce and Industry. Sir, thank you so much again for being a part of this panel. Could you please share your highlights of how the government is looking at building the toy manufacturing capabilities in India and how India can actually become a primary hub, a global hub for the toy industry?
Thank you so much, Bhavesh, and my warm greetings to all the panelists and all the viewers on directly and indirectly on the show. As you know, just to keep things in perspective, we as in manufacturing, manufacturing is, you know, the entire value chain of manufacturing. You start with the handicraft toys, you have GI toys, and then you have the complete automated kind of manufacturing where you have all different kinds of toys, plastic toys, electronic toys, all kinds of different toys which require mechanized kind of manufacturing, large scale manufacturing, where you cater to not just Indian market but global markets. And let us not forget that many of you, like for example, Bhavesh, you or Vivek, your company, you are manufacturing end to end. You know, you are not. It is not just about importing components and then just assembling here. You are actually designing the whole stuff. You are actually developing an ecosystem, and it is actually fully backward integrated manufacturing process of toys that is happening as of today also in India. See, it is about how we could scale it up. Now, we've probably never had so much of attention to toys given by the government. And I'm sure all these toy companies should thank the government for the tremendous market development that government is doing for you. Right? So now you have this Indian Toy Fair coming up. And, we have designed this toy fair very smartly in the sense that, you have 2 days of holidays. It is the 4 days. You have Saturday and Sunday, and you have Monday and Tuesday. Why it is kept that way? We wanted children along with their parents to visit toy fair in their homes itself, right? So that is one part where, for 2 days, you enjoy with your parents at your home. You don't have to go anywhere else to look at the toy fair. Second, when you go to school, if at all you go to school, then, or otherwise you have online classes or do something, then in your entire class, can you participate in some activities along with your teachers? And then from there, how is it that we can actually derive the value of play for teaching students? Different kind of things. We are not just looking at teaching, what do we call intangible stuff. We are looking at teaching chemistry, physics, geography, solar system, and then how do you interact with each other? Social interaction. So everything, all different kind of things that we value, that we cherish in our own culture. We are looking at designing toys based on our Indian culture. And if you are all aware of what Honorable Prime Minister said in his famous Man Ki Baat address, and then what we have done is we have created a huge national action plan for promotion of toys that involves 14 different ministries and 17 different action points at the Government of India level. The similar thing is being now replicated across all the states of India. And today, when you have the toy fair, we have exhibitors, manufacturers, toy manufacturers coming up from 30 states which are showing off their capabilities in the toy fair. So when you talk about toys, it is so interesting. It gives you so much of joy. It's actually value of play. It's a joy of play. It's a joy of associating yourself with a toy. You associate yourself with another individual, and that is at a very intimate level. So it's too it touches your heart, and the whole thing is so important. And the emphasis that is being given here is looking at how we can do it. Now, after a series of measures that we've taken, we've tried to stop imports. We've tried to improve the quality of toys that are available for sale in the market. We are also looking at how we can develop toy clusters, and there we would be promoting toy clusters. If the industry wants to come up and establish toy clusters, the government is ready to support in whichever way you would like us to support. We have schemes. We can help you develop clusters. We can give Government of India can assist. And then you are also aware, you are all part of the committee, which is the scale committee, where we have toys as a champion sector. We are looking at the policies, those where some tweaking here or there is required. We are looking at actually everything that encompasses toy, right from a concept to a physical stuff in your hand, and how do you distribute. So we are looking at all kinds of stuff. We look at receiving your recommendations of those committees, and then seeing how we can collaborate with industry to take all these ideals forward. Thank you.
You're mute, Bhavesh. Bhavesh, you're mute.
No.
Oh, I'm so sorry. Agrawalji, thank you so much for sharing that perspective. I think a couple of really important points that you made. Number one, I think looking at the end-to-end value chain of manufacturing, and how is that to be treated differently in India versus what we have been doing before, which is having a very large reliance on just getting in finished products, right? And then that actually really starts to lead to how naturally toy clusters and the importance of those clusters start to shape this end-to-end manufacturing sort of chain. The other, I think, important aspect that I also want to highlight and appreciate, sir, is the openness of the government in welcoming these changes in policies. And I think there are some questions that I have further, which I would love to have Vivek and Jaswant on. But I think that's a great start to the session, sir. And thank you so much for sharing your views. I'll just move on to Jaswant. Jaswant is the Chief Executive Officer of Fun School India, and Jaswant is a long-time representative and a close colleague in the toy industry. Jaswant, according to you, what are some of the key policy expectations we need to examine to drive growth of the industry in India, especially at the stage at which we are right now?
Sorry for joining it at the right time. My internet connection went off. Oh, okay, so what we're saying is in India, guys like us who've been around in the industry for so long, have never seen anything like this. And it's a large industry worldwide. We're talking about a $90 billion industry, and India at 0.5%. It was high time we made a push to get a fair slice of the pie. And I think all the right moves are being made at this stage. So what I feel is, policy is needed for the growth of the toy industry. An apt topic to discuss at this juncture. Now, my assumption is that when the government and all of us are clear that the focus will be on promoting domestic manufacturing, and for I feel the following measures, some things what I'm going to say may not be possible to legally implement. But when in an ideal situation, what policy we would like? Now, one I'm asking: can we have concessional GST for products manufactured in India? Affordability and lack of awareness about toys is the reason why is the major impediment to the growth of the industry in India. And the challenge is to make toys affordable. And being so 12% and 18% GST, I feel is too harsh on the industry. And for domestically manufactured products, at least I would request for a reduction in the GST. Something more radical, what I want to say is, we need to stop the attempts to circumvent. Now, under-invoicing, I'm saying this openly, under-invoicing, one, rerouting consignments through countries who have free trade agreements, and other. So to avoid this, can we say FOB price of the product plus freight plus duties, 3 times of that or 4 times of whatever we discuss and mutually agree on? Can there be a cap? The MRP cannot be more than the freight plus duties plus FOB price of the product. If it is X, MRP cannot be more than 3X or 4X. Or to rerouting, we find a solution to what we're saying, curbing, under invoicing. All that will happen. That implement. By law, can we do this? That is something we really need to examine. Now, we need to have strict vigil to ensure that toys under 9503 are not imported into the country as any other category, which is very, very critical now, because every attempt of the government will fail if we allow such things to happen. So we really need to have a strict vigil on this. That is one. Now, I'm asking advertising and promotion. In the long run, I feel Bhavesh may not like this really, but what I'm saying it will sustain its exports. Even for the domestic market, we need to build. Can there be some incentives for Indian companies for exports of brands of Indian companies? Can there be some export incentives? Advertising and promotion expenses on brands of Indian companies. Can there be any tax benefits? Can there be some subsidies? Tooling for Indian companies, for brands of Indian companies, can there be any concessions? All these are things which we need to see. And we also mentioned now, criminal offenses are punished very severely by the Weights and Measures Department. Can there be a body who will look into this and, the penalties that are imposed? Can we do something to look at the nature of offense and set aside the orders? Is there possible to build a body who will look into this? There is a lot of this is a small industry, huge penalties on trivial offenses, inconsequential offenses imposed by the Department of Weights and Measures. I think we need to put an end to that, and there must be a body which will look into that. These are the main things. Okay, we have this MEIS scheme, replaced by RODTEP. Now the incentive rate has still not been announced, and we are eagerly waiting to know what it will be, because that is very critical. And also, I have to say, this is a small industry. We're not so flush with funds. This is a COVID year. We're having our difficulties. Now, payments due on scripts under MEIS for 2021 is yet to be released. That's another thing which, all these are things which will help the industry grow faster. other things which I always harp on in different forums. Now we need to create a pool of toy designers, and design institutions need to have as electives toy design. NID has one, but this should happen in many more institutions, to have toy design as one of the electives. Yeah, then we need to support our artisans. We have made a first step towards that. I mean, toy clusters like Chenapatna, the artisans need handholding. They need support to bring out quality products. They need support in expanding distribution. That is one way to do. Traditional Indian games and games which everybody is keen on. We are introducing about 15 products, and it will be launched at the national toy meet. All this will happen. So yeah, this is all I have to say. Yeah.
Bhavesh, Joint Secretary has joined, Ms. Alka Arora. So welcome to you, ma'am. So maybe we can invite her for the discussion.
Sure, absolutely.
Mr. Agarwal is
Mr.
already
Agarwal,
there.
yeah, Mr. Agarwal, you're on mute, I think.
Okay, so may I respond to what Mr. Jaswant just said?
Yeah, please, sir. I was just going to summarize, but please share your views.
Yeah, so he's taken up a number of views, and they are coming, from the experience of doing business of toys for n number of years. What I would suggest is, you can create a committee, like we already have enough committees, but you can create somebody to do the due diligence, and let us have clear pain points on what are the pain points of the industry. Right, as you said, weights and measures, something on GST. I don't know how much doable is that, but other things, let us divide the whole thing into 2-3 parts. One is ease of doing business. So if you want to establish a retail shop, toys business, what are the issues specific to toys, and what are the things that you would like us to address? What is the current issue? How it can be addressed? If you can come up with formulations, I promise I will take it up with the concerned ministry, and let's see how we can resolve it. So please do this. Now, second thing is about, you said MRP 3 or 4 times. I don't know how it can be done. Let's have a workable mechanism which is accountable. This kind of a thing is probably too drastic for us to look at it right now. Let us see if consensus is there. We can always look at anything new. After all, we are there to look at the newer suggestion, which could be transformatory also. So there is no problem in looking at any suggestion that you are coming up. Under invoicing and of course rerouting, we've tried to do something on that. We are open to more suggestions on how it can be looked at. But what I would suggest is, please sit down, 2-3 this thing, do some due diligence, put some people on the job, identify all the pain points. Let us have a look at all the pain points in doing business. Then this is something that can be done. Probably this should be a low-hanging kind of a fruit which can be addressed easily.
Thank you, Agarwalji. I think that's a really great sort of, again, gesture of being open to suggestions on a continued basis, and I can cover what has been the progress of this in summarizing my points at the end of the session. But at this moment, I would just like to welcome Srimati Alka Arora, who's presently serving as Joint Secretary in charge of the Division of Small and Medium Enterprises, Human Resources, International Cooperation, Entrepreneurship Development Institute in the MSME industry. Ma'am, I would really appreciate your thoughts on the role that policies can play, and specifically policies around the toy industry, in raising the standards of the MSME industry, given that, as we also heard in the inaugural session by the Honorable Minister, a large part of the toy industry, almost 3,000 to 4,000 units in India, and the manufacturing base in India actually are MSME. So would really appreciate your thoughts on how we can again look at the role of policy and policy change to be able to evolve that journey for the MSME industry in India.
Thank you so much for having me here today. And I think Additional Secretary from DPIT, he's actually leading the entire, the toy fair as well as the entire toy action plan. We are, as a ministry, very much a part of the toy action plan. And from my side, I would like to mention that, we have two kinds of cluster schemes in our ministry. One is for these smaller traditional clusters, and I'm very happy that, today itself I came to know, because we are updating this presentation for Monday, where Secretary DPIT is taking a review, that 7-8 new, small clusters in the traditional craft have been sanctioned under the Spurti scheme. And we had a meeting with the states maybe some 25 days ago. And from many of the states, these have come that, under our cluster scheme, they are very keen to set up, a big scale clusters. So the idea remains that the cluster should become the hub of manufacturing. And once it becomes the hub of manufacturing, then everything, should be coming out of that. And I'm sorry I joined late, because we were having the secretary's SOM was going on. But the point remains is that, we need to understand what are the toys and at what level we are. When we talk about, MSMEs, that there are 3,000 to 4,000 MSMEs. Believe me, when we were doing the toy fair, which is happening, even to get 300 MSMEs, which are, producing something which can become part of the toy fair, has been a real challenge. Because, the quality of production and how much quantity they are producing is also very important. And it goes without saying that the design is a very important element. And we have many of the senior people from the industry who are present here. They are from the toy associations. They all know that we have a design scheme, and we are working very closely with NID. And we also have the technology centers. So the technology centers are ready to, work closely with the toy associations, toy association and the MSMEs. Only thing is, we need to have this kind of partnership where it is a win-win situation, because the technology centers are also autonomous bodies who are, in the market. Government does not give them any money. So, it has to be a win-win situation. And whatever we are doing, this partnership needs to be a long-term partnership. Not that, today we are doing something, and we need to understand the market. What is the demand of the market? And, as Anil sir had just now said, that, there are a lot of things which, he, as the anchor person, is ready to talk to other ministries. Same, I would say that, but the industry has to come. It's a great opportunity which has been given to the sector, and so we need to, it should not just finish by doing the toy fair or something like that. It needs to get into, and why not have an Indian brand? Because if we look around, but, it should not be that the brand just finishes after this. The creation should not, because as officers, today we are here, tomorrow we might not be there, but the industry is going to be there. Today 2-3 of us might become very passionate about what we are doing, but it has to have a long-term sustenance. That is what I think. I would, want to hear what you are expecting from our ministry. We have various schemes. We are ready to, craft out more. We are ready for the technology center, especially in, robotics as well as electronics. We really want to work with this, with the MSMEs who are wanting to do. The design scheme is very much there. So how the sector wants to work with us, that roadmap has to come also from the industry. So that is all I have to say.
No, thank you very much, ma'am. I think, to tell you the truth, you've raised some really relevant points. I think I really appreciated the kind of progress that I think you mentioned has been made on the two kinds of cluster schemes and the way in which, new clusters have been sanctioned. I have to say, ma'am, from experience and also understanding how this development process has occurred in other countries, which are quite competitive in the toy industry manufacturing space. And I know that our ambition today is to take a large part of share from those countries. The real success and the root of how this explosion happened in their capability actually started exactly like that. It started at a cluster level. When these clusters came together, when these clusters started to almost be self-sufficient in terms of the backward integration, relying on indigenous design and development, product development, tooling, etc. for toys, it really started to take on a very different pace of growth. And I think that's going to be very critical for us. And I have to say, with the number of forums that have been now open to the industry to contribute and to sort of comment on how we can start to evolve on all of these things, we will be able to feedback and constantly engage in a dialogue with the government to be able to evolve this at a continuous pace. And I think this is a great moment, to bring in my dear colleague and friend Vivek Jhangiani, representing Taitama and the chairman of the Toy Sector Committee at FICCI. Vivek, what do you believe are some of the green shoots of growth and development of the industry till date, owing to the support of the government? And do you see any challenges that the toy industry can come together, and how we need to evolve again in this continuous feedback and engagement on policy development and evolution in the country?
Thank you, Bhavesh. And, I would like to thank Agarwal ji and Ms. Arora ji that, you touched upon a point, ma'am. I've never seen such passion from, if I can call it, in any government, department, as I'm seeing from both of you. And it's really been a booster shot for us in the toy industry. We may have certain different viewpoints, but at the end of the day, my head is spinning in a good way. The kind of policy changes that are coming in has been amazing. For once, we are being recognized, as Jaswant would say, being here in the toy industry for over 25 years, 30 years, we've never had this kind of attention. And just to deviate from let's say, just policy making and what we really need is, I think, you all have turned on a switch for us. You have given us something that we have been wanting and needing. And that is bringing toys into the everyday part of a child's life. We have not been able to turn that switch on. One of the reasons Indian manufacturers, because we don't get volumes, are not innovative. And I say that very truthfully, we have zero innovation in our industry today. And that is what has set us back. And one of the reasons is it's always been a gift giving, a rewarding of a toy given to a child. I think with both the national education policy, with the changes happening in trying to focus on manufacturing in India, I think the culmination of those two are just going to, move this industry forward in ways that I don't think anyone has imagined. Okay, it's going to be a more longer term play, but in the short term, we will have some pain. And I think we should all recognize that. I think some of those pain points, as Jaswant pointed out, all very valid points. I mean, it's not easy even for the government to come up with policies to overcome some of those, because those are more operational than actually policy driven. So when I say that, I really believe, Anil Agarwal ji, like you touched upon some of the points that Jaswant said, I think we should really focus now on ease of doing business. On ease of doing business as to how our productivity, our innovation is higher than it was before. How do we come up with products that suit, and I think Jaswant touched upon this point, how do we come up with products that suit the budget of the Indian child? Having QCO is a welcome move. How do we make QCO not too expensive that it affects the cost of the product? We're not saying move away from quality standards or the quality of the product, but it's a challenge to be able to maintain a price and have regulations. So what we really need to look at is a mixed match of both, where we try to maintain the standard and yet be able to service. We are, after all, most of our children cannot afford even some of the toys made by us Indian manufacturers. So we need policy making where it can be a balance between proper regulations that are required, but the cost to the industry should not be so enormous that it affects the eventual price output of the product going forward. Yes, we have the pain points of the weights and measures and all of that, and I think that can be easily addressed by the government. And I think we need to come up with a mixed policy of this balanced approach, to take this forward. It's just, when you talk about green shoot approach or any of those approach, it's what Anil Agarwal ji just touched upon. It's about conceptualization to commercialization. Okay, every step of that way, we all in this industry, Jaswant, myself, all of us, have been in it for so many years that we know it inside out. We know what we want. It's about being able to convince policymakers on how those wants can be translated where it's a win-win for everybody. So I think if we can focus on ease of doing business, if we have 3,000 to 4,000 MSME manufacturers, One of the reasons that a lot of them have not even applied for a QCO standard is because they are lost. So the government is holding their hand and helping them. Like that, I think there are lots of things that we as an industry really need to reach out to the government and try and work with the government to see how this whole effort by the government on the toy industry doesn't wane off. It doesn't happen as Alka Arora ji just said, toy fair and it's over. It's not over for us. It's the challenges and all will be there. I think promotion of manufacturing in India is important. There are certain laws that can be framed for the toy industry, which could be carved out, which I think it has to be a give and take on both sides. And I really believe that it can then be a win-win for everybody.
Thank you so much, Vivek. I think you made a very pertinent point on focusing on the ease of doing business in the short term, and how is it that can evolve in helping us towards this journey of self-sufficiency. And I think that really captures well almost the summary that I want to drive towards, Vivek, which is today there are multiple or various numbers of directions, policies, and also initiatives that we need to examine and look closely at to be able to look at how product design, development, pilot production, manufacturing, crucial to being competitive in our global manufacturing space. Because I think that the story doesn't really end at promoting local manufacturing and increasing the domestic demand. It's also important to look at India as being a very critical hub of toy exports to meet global demand. And our journey in that space has to continue to evolve in the right fashion, right? I think it's really critical for us to continue this dialogue. As Mr. Agarwal ji just said, today, given the number of forums that we have for providing feedback to the government on policy, I don't think this is just a one-step process, right? And Ms. Arora also summarized it really, really well, where she said that today the conversation cannot stop with just one toy fair or one interaction. Right? It has to continuously evolve. And I have to say that we are starting a journey. This year has definitely been a big Kickstarter in the attention, the focus that the toy industry is getting to galvanize this self-reliance on manufacturing. But we do need to acknowledge that as we start to move forward, we need to hold hands of not just the MSME sector, but also other manufacturers who are still in the journey to understand what are the challenges that they face. And policy has to answer to those questions really clearly in how to ease their way of building scale in this sector, which I think is very critical to ensure success of somebody surviving in the long term in this industry. So with those words, I would really like to thank my panelists and my colleagues to make this conversation a really interesting one that I think really concludes brilliantly on the 3 sessions that we've had today. And Chetan, I would like to request, because we've not had the time to look at that video that we ran in the last session, it'll be great to get that view from a different industry international player and then bring a conclusion to the session.
I think Anil Agarwal ji is going to add to that. Yeah.
So Bhavesh, I wanted to suggest one thing.
Sure.
When you're looking at ease of doing business, also look at ease of exporting on e-commerce platforms. We've been working with gems and jewelry sector on how we could export, how we could say that, so there are a number of issues we are having to sort out with customs, with Department of Post, on how actually a physical thing moves from somewhere, some location in India to, let's say, some location outside in US or Europe. Now, we have huge traditional toys. And they would have tremendous market if they are produced of different good quality in Europe, in maybe US. Can we look at the processes which are actually today, processes as they exist today? Now, supposing someone were to order something on an e-commerce platform, how simple it is for somebody to cater to that order? Can you actually, how costly it is? How does it compare with costs in other countries? How much time will it take? What are the kind of things that we should do to promote export of toys from India? Can we have a look at that? So when you look at ease of doing business, please have a look at this aspect also.
Absolutely.
So
can I just add?
Sorry,
please.
I also wanted to add something. I wanted to request Vicky to also look into, the main problem which comes is the raw material supply. So what is the raw material which is required for any, whether it's the MSMEs or, the industry which is at a better stage, of production? What are the key elements which are required, because no, you cannot get into major manufacturing and export till you look into the costing of the raw material. So that is one area I think you should do a study on that and come out with some kind of report, and where we all ministries can pitch in and do whatever, because there is so much of raw material required at different levels. So that is one area we really need to look into. And also when Anil sir was mentioning about, the e-commerce, also please study, the world market, because each different countries use different kind of toys. It's again, it's some toys are common to all, but some toys are also very specific, that some countries like these kind of things, some countries don't like. So when we are getting into the whole scenario of export, so kindly have a look at that also, so that when we are moving to the next level, these things are taken care of automatically.
So Bhavesh, I'd like to just add a couple of points.
Please, Vivek.
Arora ji, you touched upon a very valid point. So we at FICCI are, we're part of the scale committee on looking at every aspect of the toy industry and how can we be more competitive from the export market. And raw material is one of the points that has been discussed. This is being led by Shri Pawan Goenka ji and being presented to the Honorable Commerce Minister. So we have, unfortunately, the government is very open to taking our ideas and all the kind of pain points, and we put that into a note which has been prepared. To go back to what Agarwal ji said, sir, you touched on a very important point. When we talk about e-commerce, the cost of freight is a killer, sir. We need to find a way. I mean, this is only one of the points. We need to find a way to be able to bring that cost down, and yet somebody being able to ship out 2 pieces, 5 pieces, 20 pieces, because that is where we will start. But where the challenge is, sir, also when you talk about artisans and smaller clusters, we need to have a mindset, and maybe the government can help us. It's about, the product can be Indian, but it's the way we package it and present it. It has to be global. We cannot pack it in a traditional sense and yet expect it to be sold on global stores. So we need to do a mix. The essence of the toy doesn't change. The product itself can be the same, but the way we present it has to have a global look to it so that we fit into the commercial selling of the product. These are really important aspects that you've touched upon, and we're looking forward to interacting with you on how we can, take this forward. I really believe that through those sales, we as manufacturers ourselves will become more innovative. When we start seeing our traditional toys and other toys being sold there, we will be more innovative. We may go back to our roots and also Indianize, as Jaswant has done with his product launch of 15 traditional games at the Toy Fair. I think these are very important points that we should really look at, and we look forward to working with both your departments on how we can boost this whole sector. And I do appreciate that you've given this a lot of thought. And Agarwal ji, what you touched upon was something that we've discussed even at forums. For some of us that manufacture through the Amazon global platform, as to how do we reduce costs to make us more competitive and make us more available on shelves all over the world. So, having depots in the US or having depots in Europe where we can consolidate our products and yet be, through a marketplace and Amazon, it gets delivered. So very important points. We've talked about it. I think we'll try and encapsulate of what we have. Maybe, sir, when you can give us a little bit of time, you can give us direction on how we can present it to you and to MSME, and maybe we can take it from there. Thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Thank you, Vivek. And again, thank you, Agarwal ji. I have to say, just in conclusion on one of the points that you also mentioned, which is ease of exports. From personal experience, I can tell you that even simple things like, how the process of getting a country of origin certification has evolved in the last couple of months has been really fantastic. And that also goes to prove how policy is constantly evolving and changing. It's become so much more easier And as our own, manufacturing partners have experienced, this has actually become a much more faster way of being able to accelerate clearances for getting these exports processed. So we will definitely continue to engage with you in these dialogues to evolve policy. And I think we again appreciate fully from the toy industry and on FICCI's behalf on how this dialogue and how this partnership has been moving and progressing and growing in just a couple of months, and the future it holds for the toy industry in general. So again, thank you so much, everyone, for joining the panel. Your views and the kind of discussion that we've had so far, it's been absolutely illuminating. Thanks a lot. Chetan,
thank you.
We'll run the video, Bhavesh. Yeah, we'll play that.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, ma'am, for joining. Thank you, Jaswant. Just run the video, Chandan.
Good afternoon, everybody. Thank you very much for inviting the Lego Group to speak on this very important topic of the relevance of toys and games in the new normal. I also want to extend a thank you and a gracious hello and warm welcome to Dr. Ramanan, who the Lego Group has partnered with for quite a while. Then, of course, Mr. Vivek Changyani, all the principals and educators in the audience today, and our industry colleagues. Thank you for having us. This is a very, very important topic, especially as children today are dealing with accessing a lot of materials, both offline and online in this COVID context, in the context of the pandemic. It's extremely important to understand how children can remain motivated, they can continue their creative journey, they continue their learning journey, and continue to remain inspired in the context of being shut out from their regular, normal educational and school formats. So thank you, and let us get into the next slide. So we'll just address a little bit about the Lego Group first, setting the context, talking about why play as a concept is very important, especially in this time. Then we will go into the journey of innovation of toy products for children that the Lego Group has seen, as well as why innovation is extremely important for children. And then, of course, our approach to responsible digital engagement with children. So for those of you who are not familiar with the Lego Group, we are headquartered in Denmark. We are still privately owned by the Christiansen family. We are about 89 years old. We were founded in 1932. Today, we are the leading play and toy manufacturer in the world. We're present in more than 140 countries, both with subsidiaries as well as through our distribution and retail partners. We have a large group of over 17,000 colleagues that we all work together to further the Lego brand as well as our play proposition. And as of last year, we were the #1 most reputable and valued brand. This was through a survey, third-party survey by RepTrack. And we're extremely proud of this, and we continue to wish to be on this journey to provide value to our consumers, both young as well as adult. So as I said, you may have seen through our products and through our system of play, that everything is to inspire and develop builders of tomorrow, to help them create and collaborate together, and to enjoy the system of play. And this is something that we will see as I walk you through the journey of all our products and how we have innovated through the years to inspire and develop the builders of tomorrow. So this is an extremely important report that the World Economic Forum took out, the Future of Jobs report last year. And this states really that by 2025, the time spent on tasks by humans will be equal to the time spent by machines. And this is extremely interesting. And 2025 is just 4 years from now. This means that a lot of the jobs that exist today will actually be automated. So what will make human beings actually differentiate themselves and stand out in terms of skills? It will be our emotional skills, our physical, social, creative, and cognitive skills. These are the skills that will actually help the next generation of workers, the next generation of people coming into the workforce to succeed and differentiate themselves. And this is critical. And how do we develop these skills in children at an early stage? We develop it through the process of play, through the process of meaningful play, which is iterative. That means that they can make and create and recreate and change. It's socially interactive, so you can collaborate together. It brings a lot of joy, and it's also engaging. So children are learning new experiences, new reactions as they play, and bring systems of play together. So this is extremely important that overall, based on this industry report, we make a commitment to help children engage in these types of play so that they can build their 21st century skills and be ready to take on and be a part of the next generation of the workforce. Of course, as I'd already established in the beginning of the presentation, during this time, this difficult time where children are really cut off from their classmates, from their usual school routines, from education, play is even more important. And the key aspects that I described, iterative, meaningful, joyful, collaborative, this is even more important so that children can actually play from home. And the good news is you can learn and play constantly anywhere you are. So if children are inside the house, quarantined, or they're away from their regular school context, families can continue to engage children to play and continue to learn these skills, which are so critical for them to become successful and ready for the next generation of work. And just notably, we at the Lego Group also came together and created a lot of resources so that families could access this online to help children remain curious and connected as they were at home. And we call this the Let's Build Together. And I'm very proud to also say that we partnered with NITI Aayog and Dr. Ramnan's team to also help a lot of these Let's Build Together resources reach children and let educators familiarize themselves with this across the country. So as we show you the journey and the move towards the digital world, we do acknowledge also that digital safety is extremely important while allowing children to enjoy the digital experience. So the balance between being safe and yet having access to both this physical and digital world is extremely important. So for example, in Lego Life, we've introduced anonymity. That means children actually are not identified by any personal identifiers. They have an anonymous identity on Lego Life, our social app. There is verified parental consent. So parents are actually able to have control over how their children interact on Lego Life. There's also external moderation. So when children do upload their builds and creations on Lego Life, there is an external moderator that actually reviews if this is safe for children to experience. So these are the ways that Lego Life has kind of become quite pervasive with our young consumers, but keeping them very safe digitally. And so it's very important to strike that balance. Captain Safety again is one of our internal mascots for safety, which talks very, very in a friendly and in a very easy manner about digital safety to our young consumers. I already talked to you about verified parental consent. This is extremely important, and I think this is a trend that we will see with many apps for children, where parents should be allowed to review how their children are engaging, if they're engaging safely, before the children can get access online. The Build and Talk campaign stands out for us because we actually launched this very creative way of allowing parents to talk about safety, digital safety to children without making it sound too academic and theoretical. And we did this through some creative online creatures and has been quite a success in terms of adoption. So this is another important campaign that we drove in terms of safety, digital safety, without cutting off access for children. So overall, aside from even campaigns and awareness, we also want to advocate for a balanced legislative framework where governments also understand the importance of digital engagement whilst children are also safe online. So this balance is extremely important for regulators also to strike. And then, of course, we have a very long-standing partnership with UNICEF. We were one of the key collaborators with UNICEF to actually develop the Children's Rights and Business Principles document and the Children Online Safety Tool. And this has gone through an extensive, rigorous process using focus groups, talking to researchers, educators, and we are very proud of this partnership with UNICEF, which has helped a lot of regulators, a lot of educators, and a lot of think tanks also understand the right ways of framing safety and access for children online. These are just some examples, what we were talking about. Captain Safety, a very easy and friendly and fun way to engage young consumers on how to stay safe by reinforcing certain principles. Safe Internet Day, of course, Captain Safety, we do use this mascot and this symbol very, very prevalently on Safe Internet Day because it's an extremely important day to reinforce the importance of children staying safe online as well as engaging online. These are the examples of verified parental consent before a child or a young consumer can go online. These are some of the steps that their parents or guardians can take so that children are accessing content, but safely. And just going a little deeper into the Build and Talk campaign that I mentioned earlier, this was launched last year, mid of last year. And you know, our data showed that parents were just spending about 46 minutes talking to children about online risks. And as we know, children are now increasingly online. That is the new space of relevance for them, especially in this COVID and post-COVID context. So we believe that these resources are extremely helpful for children, for parents to have an engaging and fun and yet important conversation with children to stay safe. So what should the industry actually do to ensure that digital play is safe? This is extremely important. There should be a set of standards for technology and play to ensure that products have the best interests for children. And I can talk a little about what those standards are. We are firm believers also of integrating online and offline play. So that would mean that physical and outdoor play continue to remain very important for the good health of children, for the real life collaboration. But of course, the digital world is extremely relevant. It prepares them for the next set of jobs, the next generation of work, and hence blending these two are extremely important, these two dimensions. Then the importance of storytelling in virtual reality games. The more children can have meaningful experiences as they play, as they consume virtual reality, the more impactful it will be for their development. And hence, storytelling and the right creative narratives are extremely important to introduce in virtual reality experiences. And of course, there should be more engagement of experts as digital toys are developed, and to also ensure that we are running focus groups to observe children on how they play so that the right types, frameworks of innovation and safety are developed. Then let me also just address a little bit of what we mean by standards. When we say standards, there should be age appropriation, there should be support for learning, there should be an enablement for the child to play safely, but also cultivate creativity and imagination. There should be appropriate tests for with children, so focus groups before release. And diversity is extremely important. No language or no experiences of the play frameworks should exclude any community based on ethnicity or gender or race or nationality, or religion. So these are extremely important principles to always keep in mind. So with that, I'd like to thank you all for listening to me and to the LEGO Group's concepts and principles. I hope you found it interesting, please do contact me at any point of time. Vicky would have my email address if there's any more information required or would like to engage in a further dialogue. As I said, we're extremely proud to be a part of the India story. We have a full wholly owned subsidiary now, a team in Mumbai, and we continue to focus on how to innovate for Indian children specifically and how to develop the right experiences for Indian children as we go through this journey in India too. So thank you very much.
Thank you. So with this, we come to the end of this second edition of the Value of Play program of FICCI, led by FICCI Toy Sector Committee. And we have our both chair and co-chair. Vivek, I wanted to thank both of you. You have been a great support for this committee, for this program and all the activities that's happening and all the forthcoming National Toy Fair. So thanks a lot to you, Vivek. Thanks a lot to Bhavesh also. And we continue to keep this momentum in the toy sector. And of course, we'll be having at 3 o'clock the activities, online activity for the kids. So there again, we are expecting around more than 500 kids from various schools across the country joining for this online activity. So it's always a pleasure to engage with the toy community personally. So thanks to everyone who's watching us, and we'll come back soon to you with more activities. Thank you, Vivek. Thank you, Bhavesh. And thank you, Team FICCI.
Thank you very much, Chetan.
Thank you everyone at FICCI. Thank you, Chetan, and for all your support, and the team FICCI, everyone who's on this call and beyond. Thank you very much.
Thank you.